Good morning, everyone. It's Saturday, which means it's time for yet another Salty Saturday morning. I am your host, Mr. Kadish, coming at you live from beautiful, sunny, crime-riddled Las Vegas. And joining me today is our fantastic panel of nerds, including OMB Reviews. How you doing, buddy? The master of pineapple pizza himself has joined us, graced us with his presence.
Always. Thank y'all for putting up with my partial lateness.
That's okay.
Well, you're better than
Thor
Brian
was...
is.
Yeah, that's true. Hey, he's not even here. Where is he?
Who knows?
He's on Brian time, so who knows?
He's on Brian time. Never knows. But Odin, always a pleasure to have you here, especially considering the fact that we're going to be talking about some industry-specific topics today. So
and a show that I've actually watched.
Yeah, exactly.
A little bit.
Maybe. A little bit. And he's the man with the best mustache on the planet. The everything wing. How you doing?
Hey, how you guys doing this morning?
Doing good. Thank you for joining us on the show today. This is your first time here. How you liking it so far?
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. Matt Vader had a crush on me. You know, ran after me, gave me a big old hug. It was incredible. It made me feel like a king.
I got a picture. Yeah.
It's the mustache. Vader is a sucker for a good mustache.
Perfect, because I felt a little unprepared. Everybody's beautifully bearded up here, and I've got this wimpy little thing going on, you know?
You are the least bearded co-host we've ever had on the show. This is true.
Except for the women, you know.
Yeah. We like inclusivity, so that's great. There you go.
And the man, the myth, the legend is here as always. Matt Vader 74. How you doing?
I'm here. I did most of my homework, except for that one article that was like 30,000 words or some nonsense.
Which one?
Said, nope, I'm not reading that one. So yeah,
there were a couple articles that were.
I know you were
very, very.
The homework was ridiculous this week. So yeah. So yeah, here we are. It's another Saturday morning.
Yep. While we wait for Brian to grace us with his presence, let's go to the chat and shout everyone out. We got Anthony Mark. He's the first one here every single time. Good to see you, Anthony. Keely Chow. We got Danny's mom, Penny, in the chat. We got Mexican Iron Man here. Gavin Blackburn, Super Sticker Champion. We got Matt Vader Superfan William Forbus in the chat. No Money G. We got Cocho Dragon, Thrasher 613. Anima Confusa, Trivia Queen, has joined us. And we got Atoy Fanboy from our Warrior coverage. Good to see you, Atoy Fanboy. And who else do we got here? We got Salty Scorpion, Craig Daniels, Mighty Orbots, Freddie York, and Michael Weinbertner, Darth Maul, and Scott Chrissy Jones, Mr. Roy, Chappie. Everyone, thank you so much for being here in the chat.
Let me also acknowledge Mr. Salt Dog over in the Rumble chat. He's over there talking to himself. So if somebody wants to go over there and sub to our Rumble channel, go over there and say hello to Mr. Salt Dog.
Oh, you're acknowledging people today, huh?
Yeah. Trying.
Yeah, we should point out that we are indeed simulcasting not only to YouTube, but to our Kick channel, our Twitch channel, our Twitter channel, our Facebook group and page, and of course over on Rumble and Odyssey. We're everywhere. Everywhere you
all over the place.
People, we're there.
Like Starbucks, man.
Yes. And speaking of Starbucks, we have our favorite. He's finally here and queer. He's our favorite shield against all things woke and cancel culture. Brian from the Popcast.
What's up, boys? I'm sorry I'm late.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Brian time runs in a little bit of a different reality, so we understand. It's okay.
And of course, we want to give a special shout out and thanks to our superstars, who are the people who keep the lights on here at the Salty Nerd Studios. We have brand new superstar William Forbus, who holds the top spot for dropping $500 in one sitting on the show. Yeah. So William Forbus, who is also in the chat, Matt Vader superfan, really appreciate him. And of course, we have Scotty Dub, who was the previous record holder, and Bob Dorsey, and of course, AstroNerdBoy. We don't want to forget him. Then we have our loyalists, who are our most consistent contributors, Joker Voice and Mexican Iron Man, and our top membership gifters, that we want to give a shout out to. WG and Jillian N. Thank you guys so much for your generosity. The chat certainly appreciates it. And of course, we want to give a shout out to our top contributor, the guy who has given this show the most money, Scotty Dub. Love you. We appreciate you. We hope you're doing well. And let's get to some super chats before we start the show, just to get these out of the way. Mexican Iron Man for $9.99 for the Mr. Kadish Fanboy Simp Appreciation Fund. Hail the great Mr. Kadish. I should have Mike on the show more often because he actually appreciates what I do.
He does appreciate you more than the rest of us do. That is probably true.
And then you can make him wear a new shirt where it says it's Mr. Kadish, and then y'all both wear it every stream. You know, just
but
exactly.
I don't know, since Mike is not a YouTuber, maybe
that's true.
You know, there's not really much reason to have him on. So.
Well, he's the only one who uses my proper title. So. And of course, Matt Vader superfan William Forbus for $10. Thank you, Mr. Forbus. Got to be driving home during the live stream. I'll be listening through my car though, hoping we get some more people watching than Tuesday. I'm itching to give out more memberships in a little while. Wow.
Laying the challenge down. That's good.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, I don't know. Like, didn't you guys have like 200?
Yeah, we cracked 200 on Tuesday. Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
I think it was because of your clickbaity as thumbnail. So yeah.
It was funny. Like the day before the Tuesday live stream, Alex was like, "I'm not fucking talking about that shit." No, I was just like, "Well, it's the thing everyone's talking about."
That's
so.
true.
That it's funny. Like 200 concurrent viewers. Odin's just like, I'm on Friday Night Tights. That's it.
But then my regular, my actual channel, like that's awesome, man. I wish I could get 200 every.
Odin's like, I thumb my nose at your 200 concurrent viewers.
I'm happy that we got 75 right now. That's awesome. I'm also happy that Mr. Whiskey Jack just joined us in the extra salty membership level, and that's really cool. I think it's so
yeah,
enjoy
good
the salt.
old Mr. Whiskey Jack. Thank you.
Welcome, sir.
Just a reminder that everyone who joins at the extra salty tier or above gets our weekly members only videos that has some of our best stuff on it. We basically just talk about the most ridiculous stuff that we can't publicly talk about on there for the members only area.
I could get canceled hard. I could get canceled hard.
Canceled.
Sure.
So you talk about Bambi 2, The Reckoning.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't that a porn movie? I don't know.
No, it's actually a horror film in pre-production right now. It's a live action Bambi adaptation.
It's same people
right now.
I don't think it's the same that did the Winnie the Pooh one, but it's the same vein.
That's terrible.
The main vein, yeah. All right, so the Joker's voice for $5. Hail S&P. It seems like Hollywood is finally catching on to the con man JJ actually is. Oh, Ahsoka sucks. Hashtag keep talking.
Amen to
you're
that.
not wrong, Joker. You're not wrong. Okay, guys. So want to thank everyone who showed up in the chat here today. We've got a lot of different topics to talk about. But before we do, just want to point out that our new membership goal for today is 5 new memberships. We already had Whiskey Jack upgrade his membership to extra salty. So we just need 4 more members to hit that goal. So if you guys want to help us out on that, really appreciate it.
And
of course,
more is okay.
Yes. And of course, if you guys want to give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcast, we'd really appreciate that. We're going to be talking about Rotten Tomatoes a little bit later in the stream, and we want to hit over 200 5-star ratings on Apple Podcasts in order to get officially accredited as movie reviewers over on Rotten Tomatoes. So if you guys can help us out with that, and if you actually write a 5-star review, you don't have to write a review to give us a rating, but if you wanted to give us a review, we might even read it on our live stream or one of our shows. So we love reading those 5-star reviews. All right, so guys, it seems like Disney has been having a lot of issues lately. And what's funny here is that, Odin, what struck me is that because of the writers and actors strike, there's a huge lack of news coming out of Hollywood. And so all these journalistic sites, instead of being shills, have decided to actually do some investigative work for a change. And so we see a lot of these actual hard news pieces coming out of regularly kind of like shilly mainstream media stuff. And this is a huge article from CNBC about basically the whole drama behind Bob Chapek's downfall as CEO of Disney and the role Iger had to play in that. And it's a extremely long article, as Matt Vader so eloquently put it. But it's extremely eye-opening as well. And the thing that really got me about this article is the level of deep state that exists within Disney. Basically, all of Iger's kind of hand-picked people were still embedded when Chapek took over, and they trumped him, essentially. They did everything they could to undermine this guy at every step of the way. And what was very interesting to me about this article was the whole Florida Don't Say Gay controversy type thing, where basically Chapek came out and he was like, hey, let's stay out of politics. Let's just be politically neutral. Let's not comment on this stuff. And let's just focus on, preserving our brand image.
Right.
But there was a woman who was in charge of the board of directors of Disney who was LGBTQIA+, X minus divided by sign. And she made it extremely clear that Disney had to take a stance to preserve the rights of all people. And so they had to make a public statement about it because she was getting a lot of mean tweets and emails from the alphabet people saying that Disney was not standing up for them.
The $1 billion checkbox. That's what that was.
Yeah.
Yes. And that more than anything seemed to be one of the things that led to the downturn in revenue, because like once the Reedy Creek district got in trouble in Florida and lost their tax status and stuff like that, it started this perception that things were going bad at Disney, led to a huge decrease in the stock price. And a lot of Iger's kind of like embedded allies were kind of like whispering to the board about like how bad things were, and they weren't telling Chapek, they weren't giving him real numbers about like how bad Disney was doing. And it was a very fascinating article. I read the whole thing, and it was really eye-opening. By the way, everyone, links to all the articles we discussed in the live stream are in the description. But I want to start with you, Odin, because what did you take away from this article? Like it really seemed to kind of like not paint Bob Iger in a very good light.
Yeah, and for full disclosure, I have not read the entirety of the bulk of this.
It's really long, man.
Article.
It's crazy long.
So I always appreciate when you give us the bullet points there, because ultimately it's just amazing what happens when, as you mentioned, Hollywood is in the midst of strikes, and so the content is starting to dry up. All of the things and plans that they had over the next couple of months have gone away, and that means the access media no longer is really getting that access, right? Because for a lot of them, it's not just about the actual premieres, but it's the fact that at these premieres, there used to be the actors and other big wig people that would be showing up to them. And so they would feel special, right? They would feel like their hand was being held as they were being brought over to eventually give their amazing review. Even if it was a bad review, they would still click that fresh button over on Rotten Tomatoes just to make it sure that it was, nice and pristine. So it's amazing how all of a sudden a lot of these people in the industry are starting to be a little bit more honest, right? Because they realize, usually we have the access and that's how we get our clicks, and now we don't have the access, so now we still need those clicks. So It's amazing. Yeah, I know, it's amazing. The grift game is so real right now. But also, like, going back into the financials of this, it's just going back to especially the whole Florida thing. The thing that came out of that I don't think enough people talk about, I mention it every now and then, but it's that if you look to when Disney started to actually have consistent financial losses, it actually started not with the MCU, not even with Star Wars, right? Because if you actually look to those films, right, even the last movie made over $1 billion, and granted, when you take into account all spending, it's probably not that much of a actual profit, but still over $1 billion. It actually, funny enough, it started with their kids' animated content, and I honestly think that a big part of that is because of what happened in Florida, because I think there are a lot of people, parents especially, who were hearing about these stories, all these things coming out, and said, wait, Disney is trying to push this stuff, right? All those videos came out of the behind the scenes of, oh yeah, we're going to try to put this into our films. We're going to try to put this into our content. Then we actually saw it happen in their content as well. And what happened? You had films like Lightyear, right? Like, even though I am, clearly against the film just by principle, because it's a Lightyear film without having, the main voice actor for Buzz Lightyear for the past 20 plus years, as being a part of it, but also because it's like, oh, this sounds like just a complete cash grab. And yet even I still recognize that movie should have made money. that movie should have been a huge, massive hit because it still took place within, the universe of Toy Story, which is a massive IP, a massive universe. And yet it didn't. It ended up losing money. And, obviously we could talk about the pandemic films losing money, but pretty much every single kids movie that they have put out since then has actually been losing money, and not just losing a lot of money. And so I think that what we're seeing from all of this, especially with articles like this starting to come out, is the mask is starting to slip, right? It was already there for anyone who was willing to look, but now it's actually becoming a little bit more obvious. And it's interesting because now you're starting to see it catch up with the MCU now starting to lose money and other properties as well. So it'll be interesting to see where this ultimately ends up. The stock price dropping below $80. I think it was dropping below $80 the other day for the first time in, Lord knows how long. So they're in a lot of financial straits right now. And yeah, I think that Iger was having this idea. He was going to come back in. He obviously, totally ruined any chance that Chapek had of trying to save anything with the industry. And he thought, oh, I'm going to come back in and I'm going to save the day. Once the hardest years are over with the pandemic, I'm going to come back in and it's going to be great. And now what do you see? Things are actually getting worse. And so I think the happy ending he wrote for himself is ending up as a bit of a nightmare.
Yeah, and it was kind of interesting because in this article, they talked about how that movie Strange World that had like the first Disney openly gay main character and stuff like that. Bob Chapek's inner circle was telling him, don't release this movie. Number one, it's too much of a hot button issue because of the gay character. And number two, it's not up to Disney's like quality standards. But Chapek's only real ally at the time on the Disney board of directors was this woman who was, a lesbian, and she was like the head of their directors. I forget her name, but she's mentioned multiple times in this article. But she was like the only one who was kind of protecting him from like the wrath of the rest of the board. And so like he just went along with it because she was so involved in like, LGBTQ rights issues that if he canceled that movie or whatever, prevented it from coming out, it would have been, disastrous for him in terms of like the internal politics going on. But X-Wing, I want to throw this to you because one of the other interesting parts of this article was just how much kind of power the Hollywood people, the creative people wielded in this internal power struggle. Because Bob Iger, one of his whole thing was he was a schmoozer. He was like, he'd go hang out with like the Hollywood creatives and he'd do the party circuit and the cocktail circuit and all this other stuff. And the Hollywood creatives loved him because he basically let them kind of do what they wanted. Chapek was very different in the fact that like he wanted to rein in some of the creatives like Kathleen Kennedy, Kevin Feige, all these people who were basically just doing whatever it was that they wanted at the time. And he was like, hey, you guys are spending way too much money. You're making substandard fare. We need someone to oversee you guys and keep control of your budgets and all this other stuff. And that did not make Chapek popular with these people. And so basically they worked at every point that they could to kind of go behind his back to Iger and badmouth him and try to get Iger to use his network of deep state people to make Chapek's life a living hell. Mm-hmm. So what do you think about the power that some of these Hollywood creative executives wield in Disney?
I just think it's hilarious how much of a parallel you can see between government itself and what was going on at that company. I think Chapek literally got basically the Trump treatment. He was doing things that was he was taking power out of people's hands that did not want power removed from their hands. And they don't have to directly go against Chapek. They can use their minions to undermine the situation and just like you were talking about, feed him false numbers, give him the wrong idea, push him in the wrong direction, to try to basically set up a witch hunt. Paycheck's got to go. He's got to be out of here. We're done with him. And from the financial standpoint, it's something I try not to follow because I don't think I'm smart enough to follow the financials of Disney. But when it comes to the power struggle, that always interests me because I think especially with large corporations like this, they're going to do absolutely everything they can to manicure this perfect image. Everything is fine. Don't worry. Investors, don't worry about it. Your money's in good hands. You're going to be fine. And then the mask starts to slip. And all of a sudden now he's not petting my head while I'm humping his leg. Everything, they turn into cannibals. They start eating each other alive. And watching that degradation of the golden curtain, the perfect idea start to kind of fade away. I adore it. And the best part is too, like we were saying earlier, when they're not getting all of those nice pats on the head and the mask starts to slip, you really do start getting investigative journalism. You get honesty, which is now the grift apparently on the internet. And I love to see it. It makes me happy. It sounds terrible that I would love to see a company just absolutely implode, but I've been enjoying it thoroughly.
Well, what do you think about this whole thing where Kathleen Kennedy was upset that he was going to rein in all of her budgets for Star Wars stuff?
I think it was the smartest thing he could have done. But yeah, of course she's going to be pissed. This is her. So I think she knows she messed up Indiana Jones. How do you not? How do you not know at this point? But this was going to be her legacy, right? She was going to take down George Lucas, make more money than he ever made, turn Star Wars into something bigger than it was already. And basically, Chapek's like, nah, fam, it ain't going to be like that. Let's roll it back. We need to take a look at what we're doing and actually try to create something that can have, a lasting legacy. And she didn't like that. The Force is female, man. She put it on it. She put that shit on a t-shirt, legitimately. Like, put that shit on a t-shirt. So,
well, speaking of female, I want to throw this to Brian.
Yes,
because he here? I hear him.
Yes, he is our shield against all things woke.
That's correct.
But one of the funny things about this article is that there were 3 female executives at Disney that made Bob Chapek's life particularly difficult. Their names were Shaki, Quadrani, and McCarthy. And Bob Chapek nicknamed these 3 women the Mean Girls after the Lindsay Lohan movie,
which is great.
And it really seems like Disney's kind of culture of like female inclusivity worked against Chapek, because all these women kind of like got together, not just these 3, but like other women, like the head of diversity and inclusion, and like the women on the board of directors and stuff like that, were all in fact, I believe the CFO intentionally sideswiped Chapek on an earnings call with the board, where she had been withholding numbers from Chapek, and then like just laid out like these really terrible financials for the board, and Chapek was just like blindsided by it. So he had a bunch of women working against him within Disney, which Iger had specifically kind of placed there. So I wanted to ask you, like, do you think that this female-centric culture over at Disney is one of the reasons we've been seeing Disney fall on hard times? Because like their priorities don't seem to be about the financials. It seems to be more about messaging and like what kind of propaganda can we push?
Oh yeah, surprise, surprise. You put a bunch of women in charge, and there's a lot of fighting. Oh my God, couldn't have seen that coming. Yeah, Christina Shockey seems like a real gem. Her and Iger are friends because they were connected via Barack Obama, which I find hilarious. And it seems like Iger never really left. Like, he put Chapek in charge, but also installed a ton of people to make sure that he was still the guy pulling the strings, which is diabolical. I almost feel sorry for Chapek now.
Yeah.
There's a portion of the article where they talk about how Christina Shockey actually, she had to tell Chapek about the meetings she was having just in case he interrupted them, and she didn't want it to seem, she didn't want the meeting to go the wrong way, because Chapek would lose his crap if he interrupted it without knowing. And of course, Chapek he felt upset about this, because this is like his second in command, and then he figures out that she's not. She's actually just Iger's little spy in the system. It's really telling. Hey, a bunch of women didn't care about the money. They just cared about their personal politics, and it was like, you know what this reminded me of? Watching an episode of this entire article reminded me of watching an episode of Survivor, where somehow the men had been outvoted, and there was like an alliance of women, and their entire goal was just to get the men out. but at some point, of course, one of the women starts yelling at another woman, and now they're fighting, and you can see in the background the two guys left. They're like, "Thank God."
I feel like I'm just on a panel of a bunch of women haters. You know,
Yeah.
I mean,
how
Hey,
dare you guys? You know, women are the best things in the world.
This is
watch a
He-Man.
single episode of
They're
Survivor.
soft. They smell good. They bear our children.
That's
They
true. That's very true.
They cook our foods. They're easy on the eyes. You know,
All those they just can't make Star Wars. I'm sorry.
They just can't make Star Wars.
I
or
really
work together on a desert island. That's okay.
I really like my wife. I do. I wouldn't want to like live in this world without her. I wouldn't. It would just be hell. So how dare you guys just sit here and just bag on women?
She's
know,
got to have a
because-
gun off camera just pointed at him right
We
now.
would all just be
Blink twice
hating
if
the
you're in
world
trouble.
if we didn't have
Blink twice.
our women in our world.
Rapid
What?
succession.
Hey Vader, I don't know if you know this, but Brian's identifying as a woman right now.
That's correct.
I don't
How
know what
dare
I just-
you
I'm
assume
identifying
my
him-
gender, sir?
I'm identifying him as a faceless nipple on my screen.
Whoa.
That's what I'm identifying him as.
It's funny because like
So-
last night I watched the last episode of Survive the Raft, where like there's a vegan, an LGBT, like a bunch of checkbox women, and has sort of taken over the raft. And in the background, you just see like three white guys, and they're all looking like their lives are hell. And it's just, it's exactly, I want to just superimpose all the Disney executives over their faces. That's exactly what's happening
there you
right
go.
now.
I know the whole
So,
Disney thing though. It's pretty weird though. I mean, I don't have a whole lot to comment on this story, but it does seem very strange how Iger has just been puppet mastering all this. I feel like all along. I mean, here Chapek, have my old job, but I'm not really going anywhere. I'm going to keep the office with the shower in it and the bar, you know. And I'm staying here. But you go I have all these really crappy movies coming out in the next 2 years. So I'm going to put you in this seat. So you take all of the heat while I'm going to go on vacation and think about running for president, but not
He's a
really.
freaking patsy.
Right.
Yeah, that's what he is. It's like, we got all these stupid, you know,
Oh, my
awful
harem
movies
of
coming out.
women control my assets. Oh, it's crazy.
I mean, imagine if that dude did run for president and won. What would that world look like? Holy
Oh, God.
shit,
America
man.
might be top dog. You never know. I don't know.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
you don't-
He's
Yeah, you're not. It's better than the skeleton we have off in office right now who doesn't know how to
yeah.
count.
I mean, he's pretty ruthless, right? I mean,
Come
is
on,
it
man.
maybe what we
Come on,
need
man.
is these. Maybe what we really do need is these ruthless businessmen, these ruthless
Right.
CEOs that give no fucks about anything.
Turns
Yeah.
out
Other
Iger
than
was corn pop. Believe it or not.
You know,
Yeah,
Back
Iger's
then,
corn
you know
pop.
what I mean?
Yeah. Right now we have Biden gets up there. He's like, "Oh, America in 2 words."
But I know the more I think about it, the more I kind of respect the dude because he's back here doing
Yeah,
this thing.
maybe.
You know, it's
Maybe.
like he knows what's going on. You
He's
know,
a bit
he
of a
knows.
Palpatine. He's a bit
He
of a
knows.
Palpatine.
Now can Corn Pop get my stock price back up because it accounts for more than half my portfolio? Come
He's
on,
a
Corn
Dark
Pop.
Lord of the Sith, man. He's a Darth Iger back there
Darth
for
Iger.
sure.
Make
Yeah,
that
I get it.
so
Well,
big.
Vader, I wanted to ask you. So one of the interesting things about this article was just how much of the Obama administration has been integrated into Disney. Like Iger
Oh
was,
my god.
like he was personal friends with Obama and Michelle. He hired multiple people from the Obama administration in high positions in Disney. And is it any wonder, especially with Tucker kind of blowing the horn about Obama's kind of like, you know, queer leaning.
So that means
stuff.
he's hanging out
Michael!
with Michelle. He's hanging out with Michelle a lot. Is that
Yeah,
when they go
yeah.
on vacation?
Yeah, exactly. So like, you know, is it any wonder that there's this culture in Disney that's so steeped in kind of like radical ideals when you have like the Obama kind of surrogates basically running the joint?
Yeah, no, I don't know. I kind of went and just hid from the world when Obama was in charge. You know, I guess we all survived it though. I mean, I'd rather have him here than Biden. I think that dude's at least Obama could, you know, count to 10 without being having to cheat. But yeah, I don't know, man. I
like it when the little girls play with my leg hairs.
that's what happens with politicians
Smell
and
really good.
people in politics. They go get jobs in the entertainment world after they're terms are up, right? So,
Yep.
whatever.
Such an incestuous industry, Hollywood and
Truly.
and Washington. I mean, it's just like back and forth
It's pretty-
nonstop.
Yep.
Have you guys heard of this new term called nepo babies? It's been kind of
Nepo
like being
babies?
thrown around. Yeah,
Nepotism?
babies. Yeah. Recently it's come out that basically everyone in Hollywood is one form of nepo baby or another, where like they all got their positions through like family or friends, or like they didn't earn them.
Yeah.
Right? Like they just got appointed.
That sounds like every job in Vegas.
Oh my God! I just realized something.
In the casino world, every job in Vegas, you got to know people here.
There's no
Someone
getting in. Yeah.
Someone in the chat just said, "Steph, do people really think Biden is actually running anything?" Dude, what if it's the same situation?
That's true.
Obama installed a bunch of chicks, even Kamala Harris, and he's just in the background like Iger. So Obama is Iger, and Biden is Chapek. Here we go.
Well, it was more like Trump was Chapek, because it was the same situation when Trump was in
That's
office,
true.
right?
That's true.
He's
yeah.
like, I can fix this. And they're like, no, sir.
We don't want
That's not your
No,
job
you-
here.
No, that's not. No. In fact, 17 indictments because you tweeted yesterday. Good luck.
Yeah.
So one of the last things I wanted to kind of just open this up to the panel for an open discussion is that there's still talk that Chapek's, or I should say Iger's end goal is to sell Disney off to Apple, because he's had a strong relationship with Apple ever since he bought Pixar from Steve Jobs and stuff like that. And Apple's really the only company in the world that could probably afford to buy Disney. So the question to you guys is, do you think that's a legitimate theory? Is that really what he's aiming for?
I think he could do it. So did you hear all the hubbub about them possibly splitting the parks and the media group?
Mhm.
I think that's a rumor at this point, but basically right now they're valued less than their assets as a company. So their market cap is below what their assets are actually worth, right? So if they were to split it, they could mitigate the losses of the media company for now, and then basically Apple would buy the media division. Disney gets to keep the parks. They can do whatever they want, keep their brand, while Apple runs the media side of it. And I think that is the perfect escape plan for them, because now they can take that working capital, they can put it back into the parks. They're basically just going to hand it off. They'll keep the Disney brand, with Apple actually handling all of the stuff that they have to do for filming this stuff, editing it, all of those various things that Apple already does on a very large scale. I don't know if you've watched some of their shows, but they've got really high production quality shows to the level of Disney Plus and or better at times.
Very true.
So it's not like they couldn't handle the load if it was given to them. And Apple has basically enough money to buy Disney outright, just hanging out in their left pocket. So
I just don't want another consolidation of our media studios. It's too
No,
much.
I don't either. But he's right though. Apple does put out a high quality product, even though some of their scripts are left to be desired. But they do have some bangers over there. We watched quite a few of these shows for the podcast. So
Yeah.
Ted Lasso was great, man.
Ted Lasso, Mythic Quest, Let's Get Physical, all great shows.
Silo's good. You
I
know,
like
Silo.
Invasion.
Invasion is like one of the worst things ever put on television.
That's what I
Worst
keep
TV show
hearing.
ever.
Yeah, you should watch
it's
our
so
reviews
bad.
for it.
So bad.
What C was
See?
an
Heard for All
interesting show.
Mankind was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that for
I
the whole thing with whether they'd buy it or not, I don't know. For me, it just seems like Disney's almost just too big to completely be sold outright. So kind of like what was just been what was said earlier. I would not be surprised to see them do some type of selling off of certain IPs, or selling off of basically just like piecemeal giving certain things away to try to get some money, trying to get some market cap. Back, as it were, trying to get some value back to their stock, or some value just back in general to the view of their company. So it'll be interesting to see exactly what he's actually able to do and what he will try to do. I just, for me, it's hard to see Disney just like selling out, even like just the entire media section versus the park sections. I don't know. I feel like it's gonna be a lot smaller if anything is sold.
Well, if Disney just fired all the activists at the top of their executive structure and actually had people in there who understood their audience, they'd turn things around immediately.
You can't get rid of us.
Is Disney one of those companies where, like, we all know that they're having massive problems, but if they did turn it around, would we forgive? Would we start spending our money on
You
Disney
wouldn't have
more?
to. It's new people.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, you're not
It's
forgetting.
like, because part of my problem with Ahsoka, even I hear reviews and stuff all over the place, but I'm just having a hard time even turning it on because it's just yet another Disney product.
They killed all of our boners, man.
I know. It's like I have no enthusiasm for anything that's coming out of Marvel or Lucasfilm or any Pixar, any of them. I
have enthusiasm for Deadpool 3 because I think it's going to kill the MCU. So I'll take that.
But I'm just having a hard time, and it makes it hard for me to talk about these shows because I don't want to watch them anymore.
I think you're onto something there because there are some people that do get excited. Like I remember it was during The Mandalorian. A bunch of people were like, "Oh my gosh, this is the best thing ever with the whole Luke Skywalker coming back," and I'm looking at it saying, well, for one, it just comes off as very, very cheap. But then also, too, the CG it didn't look good. It was like, this just looks awful. And I don't see how y'all excited for looking at a very robotic looking.
And they didn't use Star Wars music.
No. And then I think for this one, you're having some, probably less, I think a lot less, but some who are like, oh, it's Anakin. Oh my gosh, right? People are just so excited for this. And I'm like, yeah, okay. It's just very cheap. And it's just, again, does not even make sense within the world that they're trying to build at this point in time. So I'm kind of like, again, I think that some people might be that like instant, like if they show any sign of change, oh, they're back. But kind of what was being indicated earlier, I think, Matthew was saying this, if they have a full turnaround, they would have to have a complete turnaround, which is going to take time. It does not happen overnight. Like they would actually have to start putting out consistent content that is showing fans that they actually now do care about what they want again. And if they did that, then you would have people coming back. But overnight, no, they got to rebuild that trust.
That's a 5-year minimum, though, for them to actually create new content, get everything done, and have it out. That's minimum 5 years until we see it on screen.
Yeah, it takes a while to see content. Yeah, the prequels were the Star Wars prequels were never good, by the way. I don't know why.
Whoa.
No. We had these weird rose-colored glasses because we forgot that they weren't good movies. They weren't good movies.
I have never forgotten they weren't good movies.
I love the prequels.
I see some people like, oh, can we get away? The prequels were so bad for me. I hated them so much.
But they're so funny.
Misa Jar Jar Binks.
Misa Yellow is servant.
Could he be a
Jar Jar probably wasn't the best choice, okay? But there's a lot to love there.
You underestimate my power.
All right, guys.
The Biden guy?
Get off the rails.
Guys,
sorry.
Speaking of killing boners, let's talk about a show that's 99% female, ironically enough,
nice
which is Ahsoka, episode 4. So, guys, I'm very pleased to announce that we have a new intro bit for our Ahsoka reviews, and this comes from a breakout YouTuber who was kind enough to let us use it for our show. So, everyone, we bring to you our Ahsoka episode 4 review.
Screenshots of it. I haven't seen it, and it looks like trash. It fucking looks like trash. Why is there a fucking Luke Skywalker there? Fucking Mark Hamill from when he was in his Return of the Jedi. Now, don't do that. Ah!
So that
I can watch that all day.
Wow,
that was from YouTuber Mint Salad, and if you want to follow her on Twitter, her handle is @autisticboobs. So you can follow her over there, but she's a very talented creator. I've gone through her channel, and there's just something about her videos I can't take my eyes off of. Yeah. So it's very
interesting.
She's like a very smart girl.
Yeah, she's really smart. I want to watch that a lot. She has a lot of
very eloquent
assets. What was she talking about? I don't.
She was talking about Ahsoka.
Marvel, I think.
Oh,
I want to buy her a wheel of cheese.
Yeah.
I need to start making a rosary right now with all those comments. You disgust me.
Odin's gonna burst into flames.
I'm just saying, she was very articulate in her passionate.
Matt Vader 74. What did you think of Ahsoka episode 4?
Like I said, some stuff happened. It was really slow. There was some sword fighting. There was that Marok thing who got popped like a dirty fart. that was pretty funny. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like everybody's all like, oh, maybe it's an evil clone of Luke Skywalker. Maybe it's Ezra. Maybe it's Galen Merrick. Maybe it's Starkiller. And it's like, he's gone. It's like it doesn't matter anymore. It's like, oh my god,
literally
like,
a fart in the wind.
It was the best thing ever. And it was green. The dirt. It was green fart dust.
It's night. It's Night Sister magic.
It was just it was just crazy. It was I just when I watched this show, I just started asking questions, and I only watched it once because I just don't really care all that much. But I started asking questions like, why is Ahsoka only using one sword when she's fighting Balin when she just had two a second ago when she popped the fart guy? Why doesn't the little Shih Tzu chick, why doesn't she just like choke out Sabine and throw her against the tree and be done with it? Why do we have to go through all the sword fighting stuff? Force users should never have a problem fighting non-force users. You know what I'm saying? It shouldn't even be a thing. You just pick them up and throw them over a cliff.
Vader could have done that to Luke like 900 times.
I know. I guess so. It just, but that's how cynical I am anymore when it comes to Star Wars. It's just I just start asking stupid questions. You know what really got me?
It's not a stupid question.
What really got me was when Ahsoka got thrown off the cliff. And I was really wondering if she was going to survive. And
I mean, who knows?
What's episode 4 of this show called Ahsoka? I was like, oh my God, she's dead. What happened to Ahsoka? She got thrown off the cliff. It's not like she's ever like jumped off of fucking capital ships and landed on a planet before or anything crazy, from orbit. Weird, right? It's like, throwing her off.
That
things.
really happened.
It did. Yeah.
Or flipping lightsaber fighting off a ship, like last episode.
That's I feel like everything's gotten so convoluted and weird that it's taken away from it. It's like we're watching Rey and people, force grab ships out of the sky and smash them down on people. It's just I can't. I think that's part of the reason, like I was saying earlier, I'm just ambivalent to this stuff. It's like, I watch it because I kind of want to know what happens, but I feel like they've just lost their magic. They've lost something here. And it's the same complaint I have over basically everything since Rogue One. Rogue One, I kind of enjoyed. I didn't think that was a bad movie. I wanted more of that. I was really optimistic that Disney could pull off some good Star Wars after that movie. It wasn't perfect, but I'm like, wow, they got something going here, but nope.
It felt like Star Wars.
It felt like Star Wars. It did. And I'm just wondering what they're trying to do here with Rebels season 5. It's very strange. I'm not super happy with Filoni right now. I don't feel like Filoni knows how to go outside of his little Filoni verse. You know what I mean? I just, at this point with this show, I'm just kind of want to see what happens. I want to see Ezra. I want to see if whoever is playing Ezra can act. I guess I want to see Thrawn. But at the same time, I just have this air of minor irritation that is always in the back of my head because they're just retconning Heir to the Empire and mixing it with Rebels. And why didn't they just make that movie 15 years ago?
Timothy Zahn is a genius.
You'd have to pay Zahn. That's why.
Oh, well, it's just so they're paying Filoni instead of Zahn, whatever. It just,
I feel your pain, bro.
It is. It's painful. I have to tell myself every day Star Wars is dead. But yet I have my stupid Matt Vader name, which, I should probably change, but I'm never going to.
Don't even get me started.
I know. It's ridiculous.
This is where we're at.
So
anyway.
I have to jump in here real quick.
Yes.
I want to give a big shout out to William Forbus, the generous, for gifting 50.
Wow.
Jesus. 50. Very sweet.
Tons of people. So we've got about 226 people watching right now.
That's
50
nice.
of those just got Salty Nerd memberships. Thank you so much, William Forbus. You're very generous. So I'm going to jump to X-Wing. X-Wing, what was your take on Ahsoka episode 4?
So I'm always kind of a cautious observer of the fan base. I just think it's so funny because we're massively hypocritical, but we all know exactly what we want, and it's good Star Wars, or at least for something to feel like Star Wars, right? So what's kind of funny about watching Ahsoka is that I do think, to a degree, what they're doing with the show is trying to take more steps towards the Star Wars that we know and love. What I think is hilarious is that since the sequels, since the crappy shows, since everything that we've gotten, even like the most avid supporters that I've seen of Star Wars have this air of, like Matt Vader was saying, this air of like, just it's blasé. It's like, they're doing it. What are they doing? She's getting stabbed through the stomach and surviving and all of these. Why isn't she just choking her and throwing her off to the side? And I'm like, dude, this has already happened in Star Wars like a million times. The only reason we're pissed off about it is because everything that came before, and that's totally warranted. So if they were able to do the stuff that they did in the show but didn't massively feminize it, which is something that this is just absolutely dripping with girl power, which pisses. You have to remember the Star Wars fan base is probably like 85 men, 15 women is probably about where it's at. So you're catering to, just like America does, a very small percentage of your actual fan base.
Yep.
A large portion of that 85% doesn't want to see a massively over feminized Star Wars. And then beyond that, they're doing stuff that's already calling back to the sequels, which is going to take most of your hardcore Star Wars fans and just immediately turn them off. Turn them off. So I see a lot more people who are optimistic about the show. They're like, look, this is the Star Wars we need. Filoni is the savior of Star Wars. And it's just, bro, take off your rose-colored glasses. Even I got pumped. I was like, holy shit, that's Anakin Skywalker. Like, let's go. And then immediately my brain comes back after that surge of emotion and is like, watch those keys. They are jangling those keys, my guy. And like, you totally fell for it. And then once you're done and you kind of come back to reality, I think there's a sense of hope for me for the show that they might be able to at least pull something off with Thrawn, but I don't know why I'm thinking that. I'm a huge Timothy Zahn fan. Of course he's going to write a better story, and of course they're going to destroy it. There's no other way around this. Like, I'm watching a comet coming at me at 5,000 miles an hour, and I'm like, this could be fine. This could be great. You don't know. And so I'm waiting for it just to smack me in the face. It's just, it's hard out there for real Star Wars fans right now.
It's very strange to me because, there's one very super huge, very large Star Wars super fan with a massive channel out there who is preaching that Star Wars is back. Filoni is saving the universe. He's back. This is Star Wars. And I'm just like, I'm scratching my head when I watch his videos. I'm like,
but he needs him to be back, bro. That's his entire
I don't
life.
know. It's just, and we all know who I'm talking
if
about.
That's your truth. Like, speak it, man. Yeah. You know what? Speak it, own it, love it, enjoy it. Just make sure you're being honest with yourself. That's the most important thing.
See, and that's the thing, though. If people are people like that being honest with themselves, or are they still just living in their world of hope and want for what we all want and love? You know what I mean? It's just like, I don't know. It's a crazy thing to me how, even those of us on this panel who are diehard Star Wars fans, but say Star Wars is dead, we still want good Star Wars. I want to watch a good Star Wars movie. I want to watch a good Star Wars television show.
That's why we're still talking about it.
I know, man.
We wouldn't be talking about
it. That's it. And that's what it, and that's it. And people think we don't care, that all we talk about is the negative. Well, give us something good to talk about.
Brother, as someone with,
you know what I'm saying? So,
as someone with over 100,000 subs, and half of them are Star Trek fans, I understand the pain of Star Wars channels really wanting Star Wars to be back, because not only is it something you love, but it's also, it's like, oh, there's half my subscriber base. I need the clicks. Yeah. But I mean, you can't unsee certain things. You're right, though. There's long, drawn out pauses in this episode that are like almost akin to Captain Kirk. It drives me nuts. Also, there's certain things that make no sense. Like, why is she holding the map the entire time? Like,
yeah, Brian, why don't you give us your review?
I'm sorry. I'm gonna stop. No. Many.
I'm saying, go for it. Give us your.
I'm watching this episode. It's super boring. At the very least, it's moving the plot forward. I don't understand how in a season of television with only 8 episodes, how in a single filler episode is okay. You cannot have filler episodes when you have 8 episodes. This is not 20 years ago when you had 23 episodes in a season. So at the very least, the episode moved the plot forward. But there's so many weird things that even if you're not a Star Wars fan, just like a basic person with the most limited reason can see that she needs to do different things. Well, A, she's not going to die. put the map down. I understand Sabine's doing something stupid, blah blah blah. These are typical Star Wars things now. We're meant to just buy off on the most illogical things being what is moving the plot forward. And then at the same time, it's slow. And it's so slow, the dialogue, like not just the pacing of the plot, but the dialogue itself is slow. And I'm just confused. And I don't really care about Anakin, to be honest. So, sorry.
No, that was a good breakdown. So Odin, I know that we convinced you to watch this show, and I'm sorry. You normally abstain from such things, but can you give us your take on episode 4 of Ahsoka?
Oh my gosh. Like, yeah, I kind of feel the same frustration when I was hearing people say, this is a great episode or this is the best episode. It's like, well, if this happens to be the best episode of the series, that's like saying, well, this is the best piece of crap amongst an entire pile of crap. It's like, it's
what
still
are we
crap.
comparing it to here, dude?
Yeah, it's like, I mean, come on. Can we really then say and use the words like the best of the series? Like, because that still is indicating some kind of positive vibe towards it. And there's nothing positive that needs to be brought towards this show at all. It's just terrible. And again, it was a show and it was yet another episode that I struggled to get through because it was so incredibly boring. And even the fight scenes were just not good. I mean, when you look at the lightsaber battles, when you live in a world today when you can do things, I don't know if y'all have seen these cuts, and this isn't even from today. This is from, like, I think maybe 10, 15 years ago now at this point, where they recut the lightsaber battle between Vader and...
Imagine.
Oh, yeah. That's fantastic.
Right, that's been a long time since then, and guess what? That was amazing. That looked fantastic, right? And they can't do that. They, for some reason, either can't find actors or can't find, stunt coordinators to be able to actually make compelling, fun lightsaber battles, because all you end up getting are, one, really boring, slowly paced battles, and also they end up doing things that just don't make any sense whatsoever. And it's like, you think that somehow looks cool, but it really doesn't. But I kind of getting back to, because a point was made earlier about, talking about the lightsaber battle, and specifically someone who has experience with lightsabers versus someone who has little experience with it, and how, you could say that Darth Vader could have destroyed Luke. Well, the difference there is that that's his son. So I think that there is definitely an argument to be made that in that instance, he's clearly going to be probably holding back to a certain extent because of those things, right? Whereas in this one, there is no motivation by the Sith girl, by Eyeliner girl, as I like to call her. Like, there's no familial connection, right? There's nothing like that. So it's like, wait a minute, this Sabine, flaked out of all this, barely got any actual training with a lightsaber, and yet she's holding her own against you. This is stupid.
Yeah, Darth Eyeliner, is that how it goes?
Darth Eyeliner.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So, one of the things that struck me in this episode is like how inconsistent it is in terms of like its internal logic. So you have David Tennant, aka Huyang. Huyang. He tells Ahsoka and Sabine before they rush off into the forest to stick together because they're better when they're together. And then immediately, as soon as they start fighting, they split up. And not only do they split up, but after Ahsoka beats Darth Fart, right? She sees her Padawan, who has no skill in the Force, fighting Darth Eyeliner, a girl who's already almost killed her just an episode ago, right? And Sabine says, "Go ahead, I got this." Whereas if Ahsoka had just run over there for 2 seconds, they could have taken Darth Eyeliner out of the equation entirely.
Yeah, easily. Dude. Done. Yep.
And then gone together to face the boss level, right? So it just immediately, they kind of counteract the whole message of the episode, which is, stick together. And then at the end, when Sabine chooses to hand the map over instead of destroy it, earlier in the episode, Ahsoka was like, "You're the only one I can count on," right? And it's like, then Sabine ends up betraying the one thing Ahsoka told her not to do.
Immediately.
This is a bad writer that's trying to see how good of a writer I am. You remember when I talked about that lamp in the beginning of it? So it came back. See, I'm a good writer. And it's like, no, bro, this is not good.
But the big question I have is, so like, in The Mandalorian, they set up that Ahsoka knows Luke. Luke's out there. This happens after chronologically, this happens after that, moving Grogu back to the Mandalorian or whatever. So she knows that Luke's out there. Why isn't Luke on this adventure with them? Right? Like she would basically benefit from having another Jedi
because
there
it costs too much
at her
money.
side. Exactly.
The Jedi.
But
Jedi.
But within the context of the universe and the narrative, Luke's already saved the galaxy. So
Right.
he should be by her side trying to prevent another war. Like that's what a Jedi would do, right? Because he's not doing anything right now. He doesn't have a Padawan.
He's getting ready to go to his island. He's starting to feel hermity. He's starting to get those old white man vibes. That's what he's doing right now.
I'm
It's
feeling
important.
pretty hermity right now.
Herbert,
Yeah.
you know, I'm really looking forward to episodes 5 and 6 of Ahsoka because it's going to be nothing but the next episodes of the next chapter of The Mandalorian. We're going to go check out and see what's going on with Katie Sackhoff over there. Because
No,
here's the
like
thing.
we did. We're going to have another episode of this other show, and then we'll come back to this one later on, like they did with
sprinkling some Book of Boba Fett in there.
Book of Boba Fett. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well. Here's the thing about the ending of this episode, right? So like it ended on this big cliffhanger. Ahsoka's in the world between worlds. Anakin Skywalker is there, and as someone who didn't watch the show but is kind of like up on the lore, if I was coming into this cold and had never seen anything of Rebels, I would not know what the fuck is going on. I'd be like, where is Ahsoka? And why is Anakin Skywalker there? Now, the big thing that the Star Wars faithful seem to be latching onto is like, oh my God, Hayden Christensen's back. They de-aged him. Anakin's there. What's this mean? How's this going to translate into the next episode? Blah, blah, blah. I'm sitting there. I was like, I've never liked Hayden Christensen as Anakin Skywalker. The character of Anakin Skywalker didn't get good until he became Darth Vader.
careful, man. You're treading on some dangerous ground right now.
I am a big hater of the prequels. I thought the prequels were just terrible.
Terrible.
So anything that kind of calls back to that, I'm just kind of like, I don't care. If you didn't watch the Clone Wars, you don't know any of the history, but between Ahsoka and Anakin, it's one of those things where like the impact of that moment is lost on the vast majority of the audience that might be watching this show.
Yes, because the vast majority didn't watch the Clone Wars or whatever it's called.
And I see someone saying, oh, well, the next episode will explain it. And it's like, yeah, that may be true. But here's the thing. You need to be able to create a moment that people are going to actually have interest in. If you drop something like that where there's no context, no understanding, they have no reason to be excited for the next episode because they're going to be like, wait, what? This doesn't even make sense, right? There's nothing for them to really look forward to in that instance. But also, the question I have is isn't he not in the same outfit that he is in when he became like Darth Vader?
It's Revenge of the Sith outfit.
Yeah. So it's like he's evil, and yet his instant reaction is
that's the argument right now is that may not be like the Anakin that we think it is. That's the argument.
Well, but
Also, like, how the hell did she get to the world between worlds? Because she didn't enter any temples or do anything. So I think it's a big farce.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the question then becomes, how does the world between worlds impact Star Wars at large? Because it is time travel, right? It's a place where everything converges. So you could technically go anywhere at any time and do anything.
Sounds like time travel.
Maybe she's going to get Rey.
That's why Palpatine wanted in. He wanted into the world between worlds so bad because technically anybody who controls it controls the universe. But that's
so cheap, man. That's
it is. So that's
multiverse bullshit. It's like whatever tool we want or character we want, we can just make it happen.
Yeah.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
Somehow. Could you imagine if this entire show is setting up how Palpatine returns?
Well, everything
leads
to the sequels, right? I mean, they've told us this.
So
it's going to end with Palpatine's voice. In the
I don't see a way in how this ends just because of the way Disney is. I don't see a way how this ends where Thrawn isn't the creator of the First Order, and because of the world between worlds, Palpatine returns.
There you go.
What do you think are the what do you think is the likelihood of Thrawn becoming Snoke?
Oh, I would be fucking irate.
Yeah.
I mean, I have the immediate thought is, well, they have to jump through a lot of hoops, and it's like, well, they kind of already have, so it's not.
Well,
you can't really put past them.
What if
Thrawn's killed by his? Yeah.
Haven't Haven't we already
What if-
seen Snoke clones in the vats?
Well, I
It
was going
looked
to say,
like it,
what if Snoke is a clone of Ezra and Thrawn?
You're just being weird.
That's just dumb.
That's actually too
Not you
smart
for
for
saying
them.
it. I'm just saying, yeah, that like,
Yeah.
ugh.
They would instead say it's actually Thrawn, but the clone got messed up, which is why he's no longer blue or has red eyes or anything like that. Like
Yeah, and
that
he
would
died
be their
like a bitch.
explanation. That's the direction that they would go with it.
But here's what also doesn't make sense. Snoke was like massively Force adept.
Well, I mean, Ezra, if he's got the midichlorian gene.
I hate this. Can we just pick a different avenue? This does not
Hey,
deserve the
you
breath
said you
leaving
like
my
the
body.
prequels.
You like the
just
prequels,
said
bro.
a minute ago.
Midichlorians.
own it.
I feel like we're like.
I didn't say I loved everything about the prequels. I said I love the prequels.
Is this what the story group does? They get together on Skype and
Talk about diversity and
come up with
dinosaurs.
bad
bunch of
ideas,
terrible
yeah.
ideas.
Let me
Yeah.
throw some
Did
things
you-
around, see if
Did
it
you
sticks.
see their thought board? Did you see the video of their thought board?
Dinosaurs, bro. Dinosaurs.
Yep.
Oh, dinosaurs.
Wasn't that on
Diversity.
twice?
Dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs and diversity. That's the
The
name of it.
best.
That's a
Justina
comic.
Ireland said that at a convention. Let's clap for diversity and dinosaurs.
Yeah.
I'm a gentleman.
Right.
I'll never hit a woman, but oh boy.
Yeah. Yes.
Hey, guys, guys, we
X-Wing
got
just
some
threatened to beat up a woman.
I do not like Justina Ireland at all.
we got some super chats we need to get
Let's
to
do it.
real quick.
Nice.
David Nelson for 199. Thanks for the entertainment from the 199 Legion. Thank you, David. Appreciate you being here. And he's also got a members chat for 1 month. Thank you for your patronage. He says hi. Hello. And we got Gavin Blackburn, super sticker extraordinaire, another member chat for 6 months. Have you watched 11 seasons of the cartoon? I definitely have not.
I have. I've watched
Yeah,
all
I
the
have.
cartoons. Every episode, man. Every
Mhm.
one. You bet.
Yes, but I have not. I've wanted
Yeah.
to, but those first couple seasons are tough to get through.
Mhm.
I think so. Those things. And Matt Vader superfan William Forbus for $10. Hey, Mr. Kadish, I think you missed a few of the super chats and others before my membership gifting. Always happy to help Salty Crew grow. The exclusive YouTube member videos are great. You all enjoy. Well, we appreciate your generosity, William. And like I say, I try to get to the super chats at the end of each segment. So we try not to miss any, but thank you for the reminder. And of course, we have checking it out for $9.99. There is no way to please all Star Wars fans, but if the choice is to do nothing or try some shows, I'll take the try. Well, there is a way to please all Star Wars fans, and it's to make good Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how you do it.
And then you'll not please the unfans, the one who love what we're getting.
Yeah.
I want.
I don't know. I
Where's
think
the
you'll
rock?
please them regardless, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the thing. The people who like bad Star Wars will like good Star Wars. The people who don't like bad Star Wars will like good Star Wars.
Oh, you know what? That was
So-
proven during Picard season 3. Picard season
Yep.
season 2.
Mm.
Only the
Yep.
crazy, the people that like everything, like Picard season 2. Well, guess what? Season 3 came out. Most people loved it, including the people that we disagree with wholeheartedly. So
Yep.
you make good Star Wars. I think everyone will like it regardless.
Yeah,
Just
there-
wait
there's a
till
certain
Acolyte,
level-
buddy.
There's a certain level of brand loyalty that goes along with the franchise. And so like the people who just blindly love everything with the brand attached to it, they're
Mhm.
going to love anything. So you might as well try to
Yeah.
make it good.
That's
right?
my wife. She liked all
Yes.
of Picard, but she loves season 3 more than anything else.
There you go. Hey, good for her.
Mm-hmm.
Good for her.
And we got Wonky Man for £2. White leader reporting in general. Yeah, those that X-wing squadron didn't last too long, did they?
No.
It's like, hey, maybe not fly in a straight line towards the big ship that's coming at you.
You know what I will tell you though?
Come at it from an angle.
That's the first time we've gotten any decent space action, I think, since like
True.
Rogue One.
In a while. Yeah.
And I could be wrong, but I feel like they retconned the Holdo maneuver. At least that's what I'm putting in my brain, right?
How do you retcon that though?
I don't
It's
know.
a million to one. It's a million to one.
Oh, that's right. Yo, that was 1 in a million. Oh, fudge you.
Yeah, for real. Fight off.
Gotta
Little
love
Rogers.
Gotta love Disney Star Wars. All right, guys. So let's talk a little bit about Warner Brothers suspending JJ Abrams' overall deal. Speaking of Star Wars, JJ is often looked at as the guy who made one of the worst Star Wars movies ever made,
And Star Trek.
Rise of Skywalker, and ruining two of the most beloved franchises on the face of the planet. But we had this article from Variety kind of come out recently that says that JJ Abrams, Greg Berlanti, Mindy Kaling, Bill Lawrence, and more overall deals are being suspended over at Warner Brothers. And Warner Brothers has been going through like a cost-cutting measure right now because they were just hemorrhaging money. But what's interesting is that you have all these like big super producers who are part of the Writers Guild, but at the same time, like they're also part of the Directors Guild and Producers Guild. So only part of their jobs, the job about writing stuff, is suspended, whereas they can do other things. However, with the actors strike going on, they're in a situation where like they can't really continue with production at all. So, and because they don't have any writers, they can't do any development. And so what the studios have been doing is suspending these overall deals with these super producers. In JJ Abrams' case, I believe it was something like $500 million of an overall deal for like 6 years or 5 years or something like that. But he hasn't produced a single thing in like 3 years since he signed this deal with Warner Brothers. And so they're basically suspending it. So like they're not getting any money to pay their employees or anything like that. And a lot of people are saying like, oh, well, this is just a temporary measure. As soon as the strikes are over and resolved, they can restart these deals again. But I think that a lot of studio executives are going to look at these overall deals and be like, well, what have they produced for us? What are they working on? And how can we get out of some of these? Because they are ridiculously expensive, right? So Odin, I wanted to throw this at you. What did you think of this Variety article? And do you think that JJ Abrams is actually going to get his deal unsuspended when the strikes get cleared up?
It really depends, right? Because, and that's really what it comes down to in modern Hollywood. If they were smart financially, they would take this as the opportunity to begin the end of that deal, right? To actually say, this is our step towards eventually just canceling it outright. Now, the question ultimately is going to be, legally speaking, how can you actually do that? Like, how much money is there, a cancellation fee? Like, all these other things, right? That really, again, you'd have to know the contract to know whether or not it would be financially viable for them to actually cancel it versus to at least go forward with some of the projects. But based on how much these projects are costing, I just don't see how it could possibly be more expensive unless, again, there's some type of, legal aspect to it that would make it so. But to me, it would make the most logical sense, the most financial sense for them just to say, yeah, screw you. This is, you are spending way too much money. And it's clear, especially when you look at what he did with Star Wars, like it started off really strong, but then fell off a cliff. Like, you're not going to be able to bring in enough money to justify the money that we're paying you. So that would make the most sense. The problem, though, is that most people in Hollywood don't actually think financially these days. Maybe they're starting to. Hopefully they're starting to. But typically not. It's all about relationships. And we know, if anything, if JJ Abrams is good at anything, it is at forming relationships with various people so that he actually is able to get, in some way, his hands, his fingerprints into various properties and various things, right? People who come from the Bad Robot School, we hear, I know Gary's talked about this a lot on Nerdrotic about all these different people and their connections to JJ. So he's got these connections. So the big question is going to be, are they going to act based on their financial interest, or are they going to act based off of their friendships and relationships that they might have with JJ?
So Brian, you're our resident DC Universe expert, and when JJ first signed his overall deal with Warner's, he was eyeing a lot of their DC properties like Green Lantern and most notably the Black Superman written by Ta-Nehisi Coates. And with James Gunn's recent appointment as the head of DC, it looks like a lot of those projects that JJ was kind of circling have been sidelined and taken away from him. So the question becomes, do you think that this is a way for Warner's to kind of get him away from DC properties once and for all?
Oh, yeah. And you know what? How about that, what was it, $145 million deal just to come up with ideas that were all really bad and super bloated and very expensive? And his studio, Bad Robot, probably knew, hey, we're gonna come to them with this idea for a sci-fi epic that's gonna cost $600 million. They're gonna turn it down, and we're gonna keep going back to the drawing board with more really bad, expensive ideas. It's a great way to do business. I'll tell you that right now. Easiest thing for Warner Brothers to do is save money by just getting rid of JJ Abrams and Bad Robot. I don't know about Mindy Kaling though, because I really love that new Scooby Doo.
That was really good stuff.
It was really good, man. Nothing better than seeing underage cartoon boobies. All I'm saying. I mean,
that was
Never watched an episode, and I'm proud of that.
Yeah.
you're missing out, bro. You're missing out.
It's the gold.
So X-Wing, we have 6 super producers listed in this article as having their deals suspended. And the question then becomes, it's like, okay, which one of these are worth bringing back and which ones aren't? And Warner Brothers under David Zaslav and Discovery have not been shy about like cutting budgets or cutting expenses or even like shelving entire movies that have been shot. So what do you think this move spells for Warner Brothers?
Well, I think it's funny again. There's a parallel again, right? So Chapek was saying that we need to do this. Now Bob Iger is being hailed as a hero because like we got to roll this back, right? We need to really take a look at what we're making. When it comes to who should be able or not be able to make it, honestly, I think if JJ Abrams never touched another nerd franchise again, it would be better for everyone because his hallmark, his calling card is, I'll use an analogy. I was an HVAC guy for a long time. 12 years I spent in the field working on refrigeration, HVAC, all that different stuff. There were these guys who would come into a company with an amazing resume. They'd screw it up in a week. They would leave, lie about their prior employment, and then they'd work at another company. They do that all the time. There were these leeches.
Yep.
He keeps doing that with franchises. He keeps doing it. And it's like, you can't keep getting away with this. He goes to a new franchise. They give him a bunch of money. The only reason why The Force Awakens made so much money is because he remade A New Hope, because it's A New Hope. And beyond that, it was the first time we were back to Star Wars. So they hail him as this mega awesome dude when nobody could have screwed that up. Literally, nobody could have screwed that up.
No one could have screwed that up.
So yeah. I legitimately don't understand why we're still talking about JJ Abrams, why he still has a job in Hollywood, because all he does is try to remake stuff, screws it up, and puts a bunch of lens flares in it. He's the Michael Bay of sci-fi. I don't like JJ Abrams. Look what happened. Look what happened when he was confronted with coming up with his own ideas. Look what happened. We got The Rise of Skywalker, which was a bad video game story at best.
Well, now I think just my theory on that movie was that JJ wanted nothing to do with Star Wars anymore at that point, and they brought him back because of name recognition, and Rian Johnson completely boned him in the last movie. So I think he just like wanted to just throw all this stuff at the refrigerator and see what stuck.
He didn't know what to do,
and he didn't care. He didn't care at this point.
Yeah, what could you have done after Rian Johnson's movie? Though?
It's like he had a freaking horse stampede on the surface of a Star Destroyer.
He did.
It was the most ridiculous thing in the world ever. It was ridiculous.
The worst part is too, that was our last opportunity really to have kind of everybody on screen, was in those last 2 films, and none of them did it. Not a single one of them. It was so disappointing to bring back the original trilogy cast together on screen. Who's making this? Sorry.
The one thing I'll say about JJ, because I think sometimes people forget, JJ was not the original director who was pegged to do the 3rd movie. So it was almost like he got brought on because no one else would either take the job, or ultimately because no one else can play well with Kathleen Kennedy, right? So it's like basically like, unless you could play well with Kathleen Kennedy, you don't.
We had the Colin Trevorrow Duel of the Fates script, which was, I mean, it was better, but it's still not.
Yeah.
I just
how do you fix that though?
Can you imagine going up to any like up and coming or even an A-list Hollywood director and offering them a Star Wars movie, and they say, no, I don't think so. No,
I don't have to imagine it. It happened.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that's where they're at, because nobody wants to touch this shit, so they have to bring in their own people.
They literally had to threaten JJ to come back and try to right the ship after Rian Johnson's movie. But Matt Vader, why do you think Hollywood keeps letting JJ Abrams make stuff?
I don't know. It's like there's nothing I can add to this conversation. The dude's kind of a hack, right? I mean, everything he touches, he just ruins, throws some lens flares in, and lets it roll. I mean, he had a couple successful pieces of work when he was getting going. I guess I can't even tell you what they are. Lost or something. Shit. Again, I don't know. But
Lost,
there's
another disappointing thing.
yeah. There's nothing I can really bring to the conversation that hasn't been said already. I mean, he was a huge name there for a while. So yeah, these studios are going to, give you some kind of deal for you to develop some kind of stuff. That's what they do. They give people who, like the guys with the Game of Thrones dudes, those two hacks that destroyed season 8. They got a first look deal with Netflix or something, right? For like $1 billion or some stuff. That chick that did the Scooby-Doo movie. Is it why do they think these people are so good when all they're making is absolute garbage? I mean, these ideas they come up with, the 5 of us could sit around at a table and come up with probably a dozen things that are better than any of these people have pitched.
Here's the problem,
and we could do that in an hour. It's ridiculous.
We don't we wouldn't be able to get the money. Because the real problem right now is the DEI stuff. Legitimately, you have to have it in order to get funded to make your movie.
Right.
You have to follow those DEI, because if you don't, then you won't get the funding.
It's like I was reading all that DEI stuff is just it's crazy to me. Hollywood is they're shooting themselves in their own foot. They're never going to be able to make like a period piece or like I read a part of an article yesterday about who was the bad guy in the new Indiana Jones movie? I forget his name. Mads Mikkelsen. He just made a movie, a period piece set in the 1750s, set in Norway.
Yes.
And did you see that article? And some jackass
that was cut incorrectly, by the way. But yeah,
reporter asked them or something about there's no diversity in your movie. It was like, no shit, Sherlock. It's in Norway in the 1750s or something. It's like, how are they going to ever?
So it's Denmark in the 70s. Yeah, but yeah. So they cut that perfectly, so it looked like the reporter was just being like a SJW. But that's not what happened. Actually, what he was asking is, he said, hey, I've noticed you have no diversity in this at all. And the director's like, well, it's in Denmark in the 1750s, like, duh. Right. But what the reporter was asking is, you're making this movie, but you will not be eligible for an Oscar when you make the movie, because you don't have the proper amount of diversity. And can you believe
also
that?
He added it though. But the best thing about it though, he said it wouldn't fit this diversity. And yet, think about what they did with Parasite and how that film also would not be, fitting technically. It's like, but yet somehow that is okay. So I thought, it was actually an interesting question for him to ask in that way. But the way even though it might be cut a certain way, even what they show, he's clearly not wording it in a way where they can understand the point of what he's trying to get across.
Yeah,
I mean,
he came in strong.
Yeah.
I just feel like these Hollywood studios, their priorities all out of whack, and they're not interested in making entertainment shows. They're just interested in
they've never been. They're after money, but the path to money is different now than it was when they were making good stuff. That's the problem.
So I don't know. It's crazy. Whatever.
All right, guys, we got a couple member chats to get to. We got Marks 47 member for 1 month. Anyone going to skip Acolyte on general principle? I kind of want to see the train wreck personally.
Heck yeah, dude.
Yeah. I mean, I have to watch it, because we talk about shows like this on YouTube
we watch it so you don't have to.
At what point are we just do like live watch-alongs where we just yell and scream? Like we obviously can't show the copyright and written material, but we can just give the time code. Let them see the time code and like all watch it together. That would be hilarious.
Yeah,
we can do.
Unless it's like Ahsoka, because if it's like Ahsoka, all you're going to be watching is a bunch of people falling asleep.
Right.
No, this is Leslie Headland's masterpiece. I'm telling you right now. Sit down with popcorn and a pint of your favorite beer, because this is gonna slap, dude.
But the Acolyte, the Acolyte episodes are only going to be 14 minutes long. So
14 minutes long.
What?
Wait, is that true?
No, I'm joking, because
oh my god,
14 minutes long.
Because you know what though, I believed it for a second. Like everything's getting shorter and shorter, and it's 14 minutes, and they.
You are not going to want to miss this. Acolyte is going to make you guys so much money. I'm telling you right now. It's incredible. YouTubers will make more money than Leslie Headland could dream of on making Acolyte. I promise you.
So no, I
So
guess
that-
we're watching an Acolyte. Yay, Acolyte!
Let's do it
go.
together.
Nobody else wants to do it. You come hang out with me. I'm watching it, dude.
All right,
Let's do it.
all right.
Cheese, popcorn, and beer. The works.
I'm there.
We should point out that Matt Vader hosts numerous watch parties on our Discord server. So
I
if you
do.
guys want to head over to saltynerdiscord.com, join for free. Matt Vader usually hosts those things over there, so you can check those out. From David Nelson for $4.99. Put on Young Jedi for my son. Couldn't tell him how it ends. Order 66 is in the same time era as this show.
Rough.
Indeed.
Well,
Gavin Blackburn for £2. JJ is the Wonder Bra of directors. All front but flat.
That's awesome.
That works.
Very astute.
Yeah.
Very astute.
Lens flare. Lens flare.
Yes. And Cocho Dragon, a member for 3 months. I discovered a new IP called Hell of a Boss long ago. I've gotten more enjoyment than Ahsoka, especially the latest episode of Hell of a Boss drops today.
never heard of it.
I haven't either.
Something
This
to
must
check
be on
out.
some streamer or something.
What's up, Cocho?
Must be. All right. And we got Matt Vader superfan William Forbus for $10. The only bad robot thing I enjoyed was the TV show Fringe. Pretty good TV, sci-fi with some fun cameos. After Force Awakens, I was done with JJ. Enjoy y'all's hot takes. Well, glad you enjoy it. I did like Alias, at least the first 2 seasons of Alias. I thought were pretty good. Then it got kind of weird.
Yeah.
But I believe JJ, his first real gig was Regarding Henry. He wrote the screenplay for that, and that kind of opened a lot of doors for him. His father was actually a film school mentor of mine. He kind of godfathered me when I got into Hollywood, and he had a long history of doing like made-for-TV movies and stuff like that. So JJ was a Nepo baby.
I was
from the
just about to
beginning.
say. So he's a nepo.
Yeah, he's a Nepo baby, yeah. And William Forbus for $5. Yeah, Popcast bro. Live watch along with time code would be legit. Discord can totally support that. Yeah, William, join our Discord. Matt Vader hosts those things all the time. He normally watches the stuff that we have to watch for the podcast on our Discord server. So
Yeah, Monday night, late night Monday night, starting around 9:30. I usually have a watch party, and we usually show the movie that we're going to be talking about for our next week's review. So
indeed.
sometimes I
All right,
miss it,
guys.
but usually it's there.
All right, guys. So let's talk a little bit about critics being paid for positive Rotten Tomatoes reviews. This is yet
Shocker.
another hard news story that has come out thanks to Vulture. And what's funny about this story is it kind of goes into depth into like how easily the Rotten Tomatoes review scores are gamed and how important they are to movies. But in a weird way, it's actually kind of a hit piece against critics like us, like YouTubers and like bloggers and stuff like that. And in a way, it's meant to kind of gatekeep the review community. And the way that they do this is basically by saying that when Rotten Tomatoes opened up to more critics, it used to just be like, you had to be for like a major publication in order to be considered a critic for Rotten Tomatoes. And what they said is that when they opened it up to make it more inclusive, so they wanted more women critics, more people of color, stuff like that, they kind of diluted the critic pool and gave opportunities for PR companies to basically unduly influence these pleb reviewers by offering them, money or access or something like that in exchange for a positive review. And the thing is like these PR companies, they don't say like, hey, here's $50, write us a positive review. They say, hey, here's $50 to review this movie of our clients. But if you don't like it, please don't post your review, or post it somewhere that Rotten Tomatoes can find it. And so it's all very scummy, and it's a very interesting article. I recommend people go check it out. Link in the description down here. But Matt Vader 74, do you trust Rotten Tomatoes to begin with?
No, never have trusted Rotten Tomatoes, but I will take $50 to write a review. That would be pretty cool. I would have no problem doing that.
Yeah.
Nothing at all.
I'll
If
write
you're
a review for
$50,
everything.
I'll write a review. Yeah, you bet your ass. The thing that I find interesting is just how people have taken to Rotten Tomatoes in the last 10 years or so. I mean, I know people who I work with. I specifically will ask people like this last week I asked a couple. It's like, do you do you go to Rotten Tomatoes to decide if you're going to go watch a movie? And the answer was yes. I was shocked. You know, I ran a poll on Twitter and the answer was definitively no, but that's in our circle, our sphere of people. You know, I knew how that poll was going to come out, but I'm asking normies around town, you know, and they do, they go check out Rotten Tomatoes. It has way more of an influence on people when it comes to their movie viewing than I ever would have thought. It's crazy. You know, it's like, oh, well, that movie's got a 72%. I'm gonna go watch it. It should be really good. And
my wife would try to sell me on a movie that way. Oh, look
Yeah.
at the Rotten Tomatoes score. I'm like, I don't give a crap about the Rotten Tomatoes score.
Yeah. And you know, we've known, I mean, all we have to do is look at stuff like, you know, Wakanda Forever, for instance, the most highly rated movie ever of all time in the history of the world is Wakanda Forever on Rotten Tomatoes. It's insane, and it's nothing but
the worst movie I saw that year, by the way.
It wasn't,
and I watched Bros.
It wasn't that terrible. It wasn't that terrible of a movie, the first Black Panther movie, but it's not the best, most highly reviewed movie of all time. Come on.
Yeah. It's a B movie at best.
Yeah, you know,
Black Panther was fine. Wakanda Forever specifically was horrible.
Well, I meant Black Panther, the first one. The first one's the most highly, yeah. But you know, Rotten Tomatoes is a crazy thing, and they absolutely do. And like what anybody says, they absolutely do use it to manipulate the viewership of these people's in movies, and the studios know this too. This article is fascinating. It's one of the most interesting articles I think you've ever sent me to make me read, because they highly manipulate this to influence people. What just happened? Oh,
we got 20 new gifted subs from William.
Let's go.
William, you are a madman. I love you, man. But yeah, I mean, it's a highly manipulated tool that they can use to tweak either side of the fence that they're on to get people to either not go or go to a theater. It's very strange. And you know, a lot of people will look at the viewers scores, you know, and I kind of tend to do that, but even those are skewed. You know, it's just like I think there was something that came out that said they don't even like post the 1-star reviews because it brings down the thing too low or something. But yeah, it's crazy. I'm really more interested in hoping that we get our certification for Rotten Tomatoes someday, so we can leave some reviews on the critics side. That would
and make some $50, you know,
make a $50 bill once in a while. Yeah.
So X-Wing, one of the things mentioned in this article was about how Lucasfilm kind of like shot themselves in the foot by premiering Indiana Jones at the Cannes Film Festival. And basically the critics who were there, who were Rotten Tomato critics, didn't have kind things to say about it. And it created a instant 30% rotten score for the movie. And because it was like weeks before the movie was set to come out, that kind of got out to the masses, and everyone kind of thought, oh, this Indiana Jones movie is going to suck, so I'm not going to bother to go see it. So it literally like had an effect on Indiana Jones's box office. So do you think that Rotten Tomatoes is actually that influential? Is it still like a very important part of like how Hollywood markets its movies?
I think if I had to guess, it's about as important as it's about as important and as truthful as polling for politics.
Mm-hmm.
It's, who knows? Is it true? I don't know. Yeah, they could have paid their lackeys to come in and pump up scores artificially, yada yada yada. The problem that when they released Indiana Jones and they brought those critics on scene, they didn't have time to fluff anything. They couldn't pad it. They couldn't artificially make it look better than it should have. That was their big mistake, was that there was honesty right off the bat. And so they couldn't go behind the back door, add a little mattress behind it, maybe pay a couple people to put in some good reviews and things like that. So was that a mistake? Yeah, absolutely. I think so. But is it important to people? I don't know. You know, I like to say I have my heartbeat on the fan base when it comes to Star Wars. I get to talk to a lot of different Star Wars fans about how they feel, but I've never once had a discussion where we said, you know, did you look at the Rotten Tomatoes score? I watch a trailer and then I think about the director who made the movie, and that's how I go watch a film. I
So,
definitely don't trust the internet about anything ever.
Yeah, for me,
mean,
it's the track history. I
used to look. I used to look at Rotten Tomatoes. I would look at the critic score, and if it was a really high rating, I usually wouldn't want to go watch it because I usually track polar opposite of these highbrow movie critics of what's good and what's bad, because you know I get in arguments with Matt sometimes on the podcast about how he tries to educate us and teach us film theory and all this kind of stuff, and I'm like, give me some popcorn and some CGI and robots fighting dinosaurs, and I'm in.
Well,
Let's
I mean,
go.
do you remember,
that's what I want to watch.
Do you remember back in the day when it was Ebert and what was the
Siskel and Ebert?
Siskel and
Siskel
Ebert.
and Ebert? Yeah, that was all we had. And 9 times out of 10, if they hated a movie, it was my favorite movie of the year.
Me too.
And so I think that was just ingrained in me as like a young kid that basically most of the time, if they hated it, I knew I was going to be in to see a good movie, at least for my tastes, you know? So I think that's continued with me. And now, especially with the age of the internet and people artificially pumping numbers, changing polls, as it were, all these different things, it holds no value at all. All it is a marker for people to be able to put out on the internet and say, look at what this thing got. But it's not a true score. It's a lie. It's all padded by different stuff. It's not real. So no, I don't put any weight in it.
So Odin, one of the great things about this Vulture article is how non-biased it is, and where they talk about how a group of misogynists coordinated efforts to tank female-led movies, most notably Captain Marvel, on Rotten Tomatoes by basically review bombing it.
Great film.
And it was kind of interesting because they talked about how Rotten Tomatoes, the audience score, basically you can have bot armies, you can create multiple accounts to start reviewing these movies, and Rotten Tomatoes doesn't do any kind of verification or anything like that. And so they're basically saying that toxic fandom has undue influence on Rotten Tomatoes scores. What do you think about the whole critic versus audience score thing?
Well, I mean, that response from them, it just sounds so dated, because it's like, have they not been paying attention to what Rotten Tomatoes literally did because of movies like Captain Marvel? Like they actually changed their entire system in order to protect movies like that. I mean, I have a very long history with Rotten Tomatoes, because when I was growing up, I really started going to movies almost every weekend in my time in middle school in the early 2000s. Rotten Tomatoes was something I would almost always go to. I would always check to see, okay, what's Rotten Tomatoes score? But I learned very early on, okay, if it has a high critic score and a low audience score, it means that it's probably a well-made movie, but it's probably not very entertaining. And then if I said it had a very high critic score and a high audience score, I'm like, okay, it's going to be a good film and it's going to be entertaining. Perfect. And they used to be pretty reliable. And then about 5 years ago, when I started doing YouTube, and it was when The Last Jedi was coming around. And that's when I started to notice, oh, they're actually manipulating these numbers, because they use the same excuse. Okay, well, people are review bombing this movie, and so we are trying to fix it by deleting. So they were literally deleting reviews and deleting these numbers. And even then, it still was not enough, right? The audience score for that movie ended up still being really, really bad. But then when Captain Marvel and these other films have come around, they've actually changed it. So now there is a, quote, verified audience score, and then there is just the raw audience score. And so now you actually have to dive further in to see what people actually think, because now there's this new layer of, quote, protection for people who are verified. And the mindset is, well, these are people that will buy a ticket through Fandango, and because of that, we can verify they actually pay for the ticket, actually saw the movie. And so I like it in concept, but that would, in order for me to have any trust in that, it would require them to actually be trustworthy. And the fact that they were deleting reviews and then denying it and just ignoring it. I remember I had a stream going on one of my second channels where it was just refreshing the page every 20 seconds because they were mass deleting reviews and numbers for, I believe it was Captain Marvel at the time. And so we were just catching them in real time saying, you're saying you're not doing this. And the excuse was, oh, it's some error happening in our system that's having this happen. It's like, oh yeah, sure. But
our
what always
voting
gets
machines just died at 2 o'clock.
I know, right? It's like, wait a minute, what's
I don't
going
know
on?
what happened. All the votes came in at the same exact time.
But the thing that always has frustrated me the most with especially talking critics versus audience score is that most people, here's the thing, like, since I did grow up with, going to it and relying upon it, there are still a lot of people that do. I mentioned this story a couple years ago, someone who was spraying for bugs in my house. they ended up walking into my office and saw, it's like, oh, what do you do? I'm like, oh, I do make YouTube videos talking about movies and such. And then he's like, oh yeah, have you seen this? Yeah, I was looking at Rotten Tomatoes and it looks really good. So there are still a lot of normies that use Rotten Tomatoes as a metric because they don't understand, one, that they've manipulated this data, but even before all of the manipulations, right, it still was it was still an inflated number, because I remember I did this research. If you look at the individual reviews that critics give, one, not all critics give scores. So the ones that do give scores, it's interesting because some of them will grade out of like 5 or grade out of 4 or grade out of 10. And there are some that will give something a 5 out of 10 or 2 out of 4, 2.5 out of 5. And what I noticed is that for some movies, even though they gave it the same exact score, for some films, they would press, because people don't know this, they get to choose specifically a fresh button or a rotten button. So even if they give the film a 50%, they can still say fresh. And so it was like, wait a minute, how are you giving the same score, but you're giving different scores as far as the Rotten Tomatoes score? Because 92% just means 92% of the people that clicked the button clicked on fresh versus rotten, not the actual, raw
shady metric,
data.
bro.
Yes, and so that's why, as you said, it's a fake number. It's always been a fake number, but now it's become so much less reliable because of all the crap they've done behind the scenes.
Yeah, and Brian, there is that binary kind of rating system in Rotten Tomatoes where it's either fresh or rotten, right? Like it's either bad or good. There's no nuance there. And, just to illustrate the importance of a Rotten Tomatoes score, this was actually in the article where they talked about how Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, they were able to finagle a 79% fresh score based off of the first batch of reviews, where basically Disney handpicked reviewers they knew would be favorable to this movie, and got that 79% fresh so that they could say, oh, Ant-Man is fresh. It's almost 80%. And then, it was able to debut. And then once people started watching it, that rating sank down to 40% eventually. But by then, it had already opened strong enough to do that. So like the manipulation of Rotten Tomatoes scores just to get that fresh rating. It doesn't even matter how fresh it is. It could be like 51% fresh, or I think the threshold is 60. So 60% fresh, which is the bare minimum to be considered a movie worth checking out. As long as these PR companies or studios are able to hit that metric, they can guarantee that they're not going to hurt their movie release through reviews. So I wanted to get your take on this. What do you think about the manipulation tactics, how simple the Rotten Tomatoes algorithm is, and how easy it is to manipulate?
That's a lot of questions. The problem is, I believe that the problem is, I'm going to blame the fans that put so much onus on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't know how to fix the problem. Nuance would be nice, but nuance requires that people would actually go in there and actually read the reviews. Most people want that quick binary, choice: rotten or fresh. They click on it, they look at the percentage, and they go, that's the percentage of which I'm going to enjoy this movie. That's the way people look at it. They think that's the percentage of which I'm going to enjoy this movie. So I'm going to base my decision on watching this movie based on this easy to see percentage and the fact that it's fresh or rotten, whatever.
I just want to add really quick that, the whole 60% thing, making the movie fresh, which means go watch it. Back when I went to school, 60% was a D.
Yeah, it's a barely passing grade.
That's almost an F. That's
most of my grades.
That's like a 2 out of 5 stars. That's or actually it's, I don't know, 3. I don't know, but still 60% is a D grade. That's not good.
Would you eat at a taco shop that had a D grade?
That means if you graduate school with D's, you're gonna go bag groceries and work at the gas station for your career. That's what that means.
Dude, when I go to Little Miss Maria's and they have their B score, I'm not getting tacos. And if I take my food that serious, you should take your entertainment pretty seriously too.
Right.
That's why I love it when people are rating Ahsoka in these Disney Plus shows, and they're like, it's 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10. I'm like, if Godfather's 9 out of 10,
right?
You're putting Ahsoka at an 8 out of 10. Like, let's really think about the metric here.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy, right?
It's just subjective, man.
Subjective, whatever, bro.
Opinion.
Whatever, bro.
Yeah, it's what's just just kind of touching back on all the Star Wars stuff. I went back on all my Star Wars lists, and I think my average grade for the entirety of all the Star Wars movies was barely a 2 out of 5 stars.
Jeez.
And that's my average. And that sucks. That sucks, man, because the first 3 movies are all way up there, which means the rest of them are really low. So
the first 3, like episode 1, 2, and 3, right? That's what you're talking about.
Like The New Hope.
No, I understood what you were saying. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
not the prequels.
So,
not the prequels.
No.
It was definitely the prequels.
But I don't know. It just 60% is a D. That's not good. That's not fresh. That's barely passable. That means you probably don't want to go watch this movie. If it's a 60% because it isn't worth your time.
It means you're not trying. Really.
The moral of the story is don't trust Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
Real quick, we got a super chat from Doomed for $5. I don't want to save Prodigy. I just want Legacy and Lower Decks. That's a Star Trek reference right there.
Amen to that, brother.
Yes. I wonder if that's the same Doomed I follow on Twitter.
Probably is.
Also, what the heck is review bombing? So a bunch of people say they don't like the show, and that's bombing. I think that's just a valid response.
Yeah, it's just a response to bad writing.
I think the concept is that they either one have people. It's funny because usually it's people like Gary or others where they're like, oh, you sent an entire horde of people to go give a 1-star review, and it's like, no, actually that didn't happen.
Oh, you're paying people to write positive reviews, you hypocrite.
Exactly.
What are you talking about?
Review bombing is basically it's meant to be disingenuous reviews because it doesn't reflect the quality of the movie. It reflects the idea behind why they hate the movie. So like in the article that I referenced, the Vulture article, they talked about how because a bunch of misogynists didn't like Brie Larson, they didn't bother to watch Captain Marvel. They just gave it really bad reviews to try to sabotage it because it had a strong female character.
How do you quantify that?
Yeah,
I don't know.
And also, how do you not then also point out, okay, what about the people that in response to said thing are then going to start giving a bunch of 5-star reviews, or the people that would just already be doing it to say, oh, I want people to see this movie even though I haven't seen it because Brie is queen, let me put a 5. It's just
so what I need everybody to do right now, all 206 people, is go to our Apple page and give us all a 5-star
review bomb. 5 stars.
We'll send you a $5 In-N-Out coupon. Go.
Well, what's crazy, and Odin, you kind of hit this, is that in order to quantify this, basically, if they don't agree with the people's ratings, they're saying that it's disingenuous, right? Like they just make it up. It's not that they quantify it as like, oh, we have proof that these are bots or this is an organized campaign for like political reasons or whatever. They just say, oh, we don't like these people's politics, so we're just going to assume that they're doing something nefarious, right? It's just completely, it's a made up narrative most of the time, right? Remember when the Rings of Power came out and the critics were all like, oh, this is
the best
brilliant
thing ever.
Tolkien would be proud.
What's really frustrating about that is these people are being completely disingenuous. It's ridiculous. It's like
if you're a film critic, you've watched films, you know that this isn't good.
Right.
Like regardless of your fandom, it's not. It's a poorly written show. It's well made. It was beautiful, but poorly written.
But if you remember, if you criticize the fact that there were black elves like Don Lemonor in the Rings of Power, instantly everyone was a racist. Everyone who didn't like the show was a racist because it was too diverse. Really. Like that was the issue. That was the issue with that, and it's these made up narratives that the mainstream media uses to protect these properties, and Rotten Tomatoes is kind of at the forefront of that. Which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I don't think people understand that wasn't the problem, right? It's not that, oh my God, you have a black elf, that's a problem. And it's not like, oh my God, people of more melanin content don't exist in Middle Earth. They do. They just live in different places. Have you noticed that, like, if you go to Canada, generally the skin color is a little different than if you go to North Africa? Like, that happens. That's just kind of a thing. So
weird.
Why wouldn't you use the Southlanders? Whatever.
Also, real quick.
Go ahead.
JT Gunn, Late Night with Cap for $2. Should they require you to watch the movie or TV show? So Fandango, that owns Rotten Tomatoes, they have they basically require you to, if you want a verified review, you have to show proof that you bought a ticket. And they're also the verified critics who are like with like mainstream publications and stuff like that. So
yeah, and again,
I
I understand where they're coming from. Like, it makes sense, but at the same time, it would require me to still trust them, which they have not done anything to actually give us any sense of trust. Especially talking just like last point about that, the TV show side of it. Like, if you look at Rotten Tomatoes, like a lot of times the show's ratings only get released specifically when there's like 2 or 3 episodes, right? Because what they'll do is they'll release like the first couple episodes to critics, and then they'll put the review in. And I don't think that there's a good follow-up to see if they've actually continued watching the entire rest of the show. So you have this like high rating, but it could be that you had a bunch of people, like 75 reviewers who got the first 2 episodes, gave it a high score because they had that access, but then either they didn't review any other episode, and if they did, like, it would still, at the end of it, the whole show series review score would still be high because of those inflated first numbers.
All right, guys, let's talk a little bit about another hit piece that came out this week, which is Jimmy Fallon's Mean Man.
What?
So there was this really fantastic Rolling Stone article where actually, like, yet another hard news piece coming out from like a very in the tank publication that basically, like, the people at Rolling Stone were bored. There was no new news coming out, so they were like, hey, let's follow up on some of these rumors that Jimmy Fallon is a raging a-hole. And basically they went out and they interviewed like 50 former Tonight Show employees and stuff like that, and some of the showrunners and basically people in the know, and they got multiple verifications that Jimmy Fallon, everyone's favorite kind of happy-go-lucky late night talk show host, is just a complete jerk.
He's a monster.
And he's drunk most of the time, apparently. So it was kind of an interesting article, and we talked a little bit in previous episodes about Strike Force 5, where basically all the late night talk show hosts got together to do like a impromptu podcast, and Jimmy Fallon's one of those guys, and they just seem like completely out of their element on the Zoom call. But I really felt like Conan O'Brien should have gotten the Tonight Show after Jay Leno stepped down. Yeah. And the whole thing that where Jimmy Fallon ended up getting the show as opposed to Conan O'Brien just still bothers me to this day. So I was actually kind of very happy to see like how terrible the Tonight Show under Jimmy Fallon is, because when you watch it, it's so milquetoast and just kind of like evenly keeled that, it's hard to find stuff to dislike about it because it's so inoffensive. But behind the scenes, apparently, like, people were having mental breakdowns and all this crazy stuff. Brian, what's your take on Jimmy Fallon being a complete knob?
Well, he's a hack. I'm just going to start off with he's a hack. Strike Force 5, I really tried to watch. They're all just, that entire thing is really, really just so bad. Like, God damn it, get in the frame, dude. I'm not sure why you're like this little tiny head at the very bottom of the screen. But specifically to Jimmy Fallon, I think it would be hilarious if his entire happy-go-lucky persona was one thing, was like, oh, this is what everyone sees, but behind the scenes, he's actually just a maniac screaming on, like, whenever a Hollywood celebrity plays themselves on a TV show, they're always the biggest asshole version of themselves, like Matt Damon or whatever in Entourage. I bet you that's Jimmy Fallon. So now I want to see a Jimmy Fallon like scripted show behind the scenes of Jimmy Fallon, where Jimmy Fallon shows up every once in a while and is just a maniac. I would watch the shit out of that.
This article may be kind of sad, to be honest with you.
Why is that, Matt Bader?
Well, I kind of consider myself a Jimmy Fallon fan back in the day. Now, I haven't watched The Tonight Show. It just doesn't, none of the late night stuff shows, they don't work with my schedule. I'm getting off work when these shows are always on TV. And so I just don't watch them. But I really enjoyed Jimmy Fallon and his stuff that he did back on SNL and everything, his stuff with the Barry Gay talk show and, and some of these other things. They always make me laugh. He always made me laugh back then. And I thought he just came off as genuine and funny, and he's a talented guy, and when I do catch some like Tonight Show clips when they're doing their skits and stuff, I get that same feeling. He makes me laugh. So when I read a piece like this, that he's a raging alcoholic lunatic who treats everybody like shit, it makes me a little sad inside, and I don't like to see that kind of stuff. And I I don't know how much of this is. I'm sure it's real. It's got to be. I'm sure it is. There's too many people saying it's not. I mean, they interview like 70 people or something like that worked on the show or something, according to the article, and that's a lot of people that confirm or won't confirm, which is just the same as confirming that he's kind of a crazy person. So yeah, it made me a little bit sad, because I have always considered myself a fan of his, because he's one of the few people that actually does make me laugh out there, you know, at least with his old stuff, because I don't watch any of his new stuff hardly at all. So, but yeah, whatever.
Yeah, it does seem kind of odd that, like, you know, his forward-facing persona is like he's like kind of this goofy, like non-threatening guy, but behind the scenes, like his staff lives in fear of him. Odin, they went through 9 different showrunners over the course of 9 seasons.
That's telling.
And people, you know, like they stopped going to HR to complain, because basically anyone who complained to HR would immediately get fired. There was just this culture of bullying where Fallon would passively aggressively just kind of like mentally torture people, to the point where they had to use the dressing rooms as what they called crying rooms. They'd have to go in the room and basically cry in order to get all the negative emotions out of there. But
I'm sorry, but that's really funny.
But in the era of YouTube, where basically what we do is the same thing as what these guys do you think that late night TV is actually going to continue on much longer?
I just don't see how it does, because I think you look to the audience that typically watch late night, and it's a mostly aging demographic. You know, even though they're bringing on younger talent, you know, especially in comparison to what the typical audience is, they're not really getting a lot of brand new younger viewers in droves, right? So I think that as people begin to age out in general, I think that you're going to start to see those numbers plummet. And then eventually, once you don't have those, you know, I guess what would be the boomers probably watching, maybe Gen X, like as soon as those people are starting to no longer watch because either they're no longer around or because of whatever, I don't see how it possibly survives. And kind of similar to Vader, I think it's so sad with someone like him, because actually I remember watching kind of the early days of his show, and I thought there was some fun stuff in there. Like there was I don't know why, it was the dumbest thing, and yet it always made me laugh. And it was he would write thank you notes, and it would just be like thank you to, and then they'd just be like this, you know, quiet piano playing underneath it.
Yeah, I remember that.
And again, it was just very subtle, very very silly, but it was like, hey, it's fun. But I can't say I'm that surprised either, simply because it's just a sad truth that most people in comedy suffer from alcoholism, suffer from some type of drug, like some type of an addiction. It's very, very common that the people that are most likely to be a comic, the people that are most likely to be that outgoing, are usually dealing with a lot of internal stuff. And so it's sad. And I hope that what this can do is either, you know, is one, hold him responsible if he ever, you know, if he actually did something, you know, criminal, but also get him help, because I think he has a family. I assume that he has a family, and I think that that's something married. That, you know, I want him to get help for, because I don't think any, you know, person should have to watch their loved one go through something like that.
Well, we should point out that one of the reasons that Jimmy Fallon's Tonight Show started doing so well in the ratings is because they were very, very diligent about pulling highlights from the show and putting them on YouTube. And these short, digestible clips that people would find on YouTube, and YouTube would push out because it's like a mainstream media thing. That's what really drove the bulk of his audience, and he is like #1 in late night, I think, if you don't count like Greg Gutfeld or something like that. But X-Wing, you know, Jimmy Fallon, after this this article dropped, he came out and he issued an apology. He's like, I had no idea, I'm so sorry, I didn't know, like, you know, things were so bad at late night. Do you think that this apology was genuine, or is it just a CYA moment?
It's tough. So, you know, just like everybody said on the panel, you know, back when Fallon was on Saturday Night Live, I loved Fallon. I always thought he was funny. I always, there was something in him that I kind of saw myself in Jimmy Fallon. Like, he's just a goofy dude. He's out having fun. He can't believe he's catching the breaks, and he's just having fun with it. You know what I mean? But fame can change people. And do I believe necessarily he's literally an asshole running around backstage, like punching interns? No, I don't think I believe that.
Oh, God, I want to believe that, though.
But having said that, you know, there is a massive amount of pressure once you finally do have your big show. You made it to the big times, and then all of the shock wears off and you fall into a routine. I think in a lot of ways, people just tend to not notice things, or they'll snap at somebody and not really notice it because it's the day-to-day doldrums, just like anybody at work might snap at somebody. So I think that's probably true. And I think the face that he puts on when he's on the show is probably not what he's like in real life anymore. There's a huge possibility he is massively depressed. We don't need another Robin Williams. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Comedy always comes from a place of grief. And yeah, like you guys said, the funniest people on earth are usually the most broken. So this is it's a depressing topic. I would say more than anything, like I hope whatever is going on, he gets it fixed. And the best thing he could do would probably be to leave the late night circuit and just dip out, enjoy his family. He made it. He's got the money. Get out, go on vacation, buy a catamaran, and just dick off for the rest of your life. You are not beholden to any studio. Just quit.
Come back and make a YouTube channel after you take a year off or something.
You remember what's her name? Ellen DeGeneres? Same thing, right?
Yeah.
Same thing.
Well, the problem with a lot of these talk show hosts is that there's no syndication for talk shows, right? So like, as soon as they stop doing their stuff, the money stops. Yeah. That's one of the reasons Jay Leno held on as long as he could, is because it was a money train for him.
How much money do you need though when you get to when you get to
to
your
resent
50th
that.
classic car? You know what I mean?
Yeah, you resent that money.
Well, but also hosting a popular late night talk show gives you a lot of cachet in Hollywood because people want to get their people on there. Like it gives you a certain amount of power in the industry. Yeah. So like there are reasons why people don't want to give that up, but it seems like most of the issues with Jimmy Fallon stem from the fact that he's supposedly, according to this article, allegedly constantly drunk on set. Like he'll show up smelling of alcohol.
I would be.
And they specifically say in the article that on the days where he's hungover, those are the worst days, right?
Yeah,
they have good Jimmy days and bad Jimmy days, and the worst Jimmy days are when he went on a bender the night before and he's shown up to work the next day just feeling like hungover.
You know, I don't know anything about drinking while I'm working in the studio. Nothing. I don't know about that.
I mean,
that's
me neither.
I couldn't even imagine that.
I never drink and stream. Don't do that.
Never do that.
No.
Horrible.
Terrible. It's a terrible idea. Do all kinds of dumb shit.
We got a super chat for $4.99 from John Carter of Mars, maybe. Fallon jumped the shark when he sang the COVID ditty XBB.1.9.
Yeah, I've never seen that.
I think a lot of late night talk show hosts jumped the shark when they started kind of pushing the jab.
Yeah.
Well, could you imagine that feeling too, though? You've made it now. You were a comedian. You were having fun with what you're doing. Now you're on a late night show where people are writing content for you, and maybe you don't really believe in what they're saying. Maybe he does, but maybe you don't really believe in it. How much would you now resent having to go on that show where people are telling you what to say and you have to act like a little monkey on stage dancing around, spewing the stuff that they're writing for you? I'd be pissed off too. I'd get drunk. I'm like, this is the only way I'm dealing with this, man.
But you're rich now, so just leave. I don't like why are you going to be there? Why you have to be there?
Contracts, buddy.
Man. I mean, if
contracts only last so long.
If the head of NBC came up to me and said, "Hey, I know you're against all this kind of stuff, but you're going to do a song and dance number dressed up as a syringe,"
fucking fire me and give me my golden parachute.
It's like,
then
I would be really upset about that. I would be pissed off.
You wouldn't be when they handed you a $15 million paycheck.
I know. It's like, so what's your integrity worth then? At what point?
Yeah.
I'm honestly really worried right now that I'm going to have a chat with all the stuff going on in the media right now about this new wave of nonsense. I already told my boss. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to do this.
I'm not wearing a mask. I'm not doing it.
Guys, here's the thing. I want to highlight No Money G's chat here. Mr. Kadish runs everyone with an iron fist behind the scenes.
He really does.
Not really.
So
the good days are when he's not hungover.
When he's not hungover, Matt's actually a really good guy. But
one of the things that this article kind of brought up is the fact that, number one, Jimmy Kimmel is fully in charge of that show, and one of the problems is that they don't have a showrunner who would tell him no. So everything that happens on the Tonight Show is a direct result of what Jimmy
Kimmel or Jimmy Fallon?
Fallon.
Sorry, Jimmy Fallon.
Oh,
I get those two confused. Is a direct result of what Jimmy Fallon wants to happen on the show.
Really?
And part of the reason it's such a toxic environment is because they don't have anyone who's willing to stand up to him and say, like, dude, calm down, or like whatever. So basically all the COVID stuff, Jimmy had, like, he wasn't forced to do it.
Oh,
it was part of his idea.
Right. Well, that changes things drastically.
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, Jimmy, can you stop punching the interns in the face as a joke? Stop doing that.
So a toy fanboy asked, does the new Salty Studio have a crying room?
No.
We have a
Not
You
crying
didn't
room.
put that in the budget?
The
Come on.
entire studio's a crying room.
There you go.
Indeed. Indeed. All right, guys. So we had a lot to talk about today, and we talked about it. I want to thank everyone for showing up in the chat and participating, especially those of you generous enough to give us super chats. We really appreciate those.
Very nice.
Odin from ONB Reviews. What type of pineapple pizza are you going to be eating today?
Oh my goodness, I'm not eating it. Okay, you can't make me, Mr. Kadish. All right, you can't make me cry in the crying room today because I'm not there. All right, so just back off. Anyway, I did some research while that was going on, though, about the whole Rotten Tomatoes TV show series. So just to give you a bit of context, 162 reviews for the first episode. 162 reviews. By the last episode, 26.
Huh.
So
Definitely going down.
shows you why, in general, shows on Rotten Tomatoes have basically, we could say they're inflated because they get the first 2 episodes, they were at 150-ish, or the first one with the most. By episode 3, it dropped down to the 30s. So people dropped off a cliff after that point, and also it meant the Access only gave them 2 episodes, and they didn't continue watching after. So, as I said, don't buy into their ratings on TV shows either because it's already pretty bad. But
Or
anyway,
maybe they did have another 136, but they deleted 100 comments. You never know.
well, again, these are actual reviews. Like, these are critic reviews. These are not.
Oh, really?
Yes, these are critic
Oh.
reviews. Yes. So,
And
it's
also, the fewer reviews a thing gets, the better likelihood it is to actually, get a fresh rating because of the way that the rating's calculated.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep, because again, larger portion of high reviews means that's why the whole show gets about an 83% certified fresh score. It's like, wait a minute.
Concentrated stupidity.
Certified fresh.
Certified fresh. But
Oh, shit.
I assume that was also a throw to me for my outro. So check me out over at OMB Reviews. And I got a live stream tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern, talking about this and also talking about my thoughts on One Piece and Angel Studios doing some
Love
pretty
One
cool
Piece.
stuff.
I liked
One
One
Piece was
Piece.
so good.
It was good.
Yeah.
I'm shocked. I'm actually really enjoying it.
I know.
I started the first episode and I've never watched anime in my entire life. And the guy goes, gum, gum, punch. I'm like, get me out of here. And then by the 3rd episode, I'm totally invested.
I'm
100%.
sad I
How-
have no more
how-
episodes. I'm
How
sad.
crazy is it that we're actually surprised that we like a Netflix show? Like
Fair.
that's what we've come to nowadays.
That's
Real
a good
quick,
one.
we got a
Second episode,
super
I think.
chat from No Money G for $20. Thank you,
Thank
No
you.
Money. Great show, guys. Keep it up. Thumbs up emoji. We appreciate that.
Thanks, brother.
X-Wing, any final thoughts and where can people find more of you?
I don't know if I have any final thoughts. I could keep doing this for like another 6 hours. I'm enjoying the heck out of it. The whole panel is obviously clearly intelligent dudes who got a lot to say about this. So I've thoroughly enjoyed this. Thank you, Matt, for having a man crush on me and coming and giving me a hug in Vegas. I don't think we'd be connected right
awesome.
now if you didn't do that.
Did he cup your bulge?
He did. He was so gentle. That was the.
No,
that was the
it's
thing
very
So
that I
gentle,
noticed.
he was sitting there talking to Jay. I've known Jay for a long time, so I just went up there and put my arm around both of them, twisted their nipples, and I
Yeah.
said, "Hey, you guys want to like take a picture?" And they said, "Yeah, let's go." And I went
Yeah.
click, and that was all there was to it.
And
It's a
that's
terrible
how the
picture.
orgy
Turned-
started.
Turned out
Yeah.
awful.
It was a
lighting
wild
was
night.
bad.
I mean, Vegas is Vegas, but
Yeah, we'd have to
anyways,
always-
so I run a Star Wars channel called X-Wing. If you like Star Wars, sorry, I don't know what to say right now. It's a little rough. So I'm branching out a little bit. I've been reviewing.
I'm with you, bro. I run a Star Trek channel, so I'm with you,
yeah,
buddy.
it's rough country right now. But
We
we're
gotta
doing everything
branch
we
out a
can.
little bit. Yep.
Yeah. But I'm just trying to have fun. I want to be honest, talk about these different things. So you can find me at X-Wing with the number 5 after it, my lucky number at X-Wing 5. That's where I'll be. Thank you, everybody on the panel. It's been awesome. Matt, both Matts, thanks.
You're welcome. Thanks for
And
hanging
we
out
should
with us.
point out that if you want to check out anyone's channel from the panel, it is all listed in the description of this video. So be sure to check them out. Brian from the Popcast, I know that you're not feeling well today, so we appreciate you joining us. Do you have any final thoughts, and where can people find more of you?
You can find me at the Popcast, POPCAST, and of course Popcast Unleashed, which is our live channel, which is demonetized right now. So fun. Final thoughts? I got no final thoughts. Jimmy Fallon's a hack, and the whole Strike Force 5 is just garbage. Star Wars sucks. It's slow and boring right now with a bunch of cartoonish characters that make zero to little fucking sense. Star Trek disappoints me and makes me want to also be funny, but then hang myself in the closet while jerking off.
Go drink a gallon of NyQuil and go to bed, dude. You're very salty today.
And you know what?
Recently that did that?
Regardless, I love you guys. Look, life will get better, but it's got to get worse first.
Brian, which do you like better, Star Wars or Star Trek right now?
Fuck you.
There you go. Wow. Jeez.
You got to pick one, man.
Sounds like Tom's on the channel right now.
I think, you know what? Because there's Lower Decks, I would say Star Trek. Because Lower Decks is fun. It's not Star Trek, but it's labeled Star Trek, and it's fun.
You guys also got a whole season of good Star Trek, right?
We did.
We
did.
About
Picard season 3 was
we got a whole season
solid.
of good Star Wars because it's never happened.
That's a really good point.
Apparently, we just like it because it's member berries, but whatever.
Whatever.
You guys are also
Feed me.
misogynists.
Feed me, Daddy Metalis.
It was because people told you to like it. That's what I was told.
That's it.
what it is.
Gary told us to like it, so
It
we
was
had
a
to like
review
it.
bomb. Yeah.
Yeah,
So stupid.
I hope you and Shane enjoyed your $50, Brian. For that, season 3 review.
Our $50 for our 300 hours of video that we put out.
Yeah.
Matt Vader 74. What do we got going on the Salty Nerd channel this week?
Oh, we got a thing coming out this week. We're reviewing the classic PG-rated Stallone movie. Over the Top is coming out this week.
The best movie about professional arm wrestling.
Yeah, and father-son relationships and everything. Very, very entertaining movie. I was shocked. I hadn't seen it in a long time, but we got that review coming out on Friday, and on Thursdays we always have our weekly breakdown television show podcast discussion thing about that awful show on Apple TV called Invasion. It's I don't know. People like it when we talk about it, so that's what we do. Whether we want to or not, we're gonna eat that bullet and go down the Invasion path for an hour a week. So Invasion. That's what we got. Invasion and Over the Top this week. Yesterday we released Conan the Destroyer, another fun little 80s ditty. The sequel to one of the best movies of all time that didn't really live up to the hype at all. But they had a cute little 14-year-old girl in it that used to be the Savage's sister on the Wonder Years. So there's that thing. So Bombata, Will Chamberlain. Yeah, good stuff. That's what we got.
So we had a poll going in the chat during our live stream. The poll question was, should Warner Brothers cancel JJ's deal completely?
Yes.
5% of the chat said no, and 94% said yes, cancel that motherfucker.
Damn.
So,
wow.
Very interesting. I want to thank everyone who gave us super chats today. Mexican Iron Man, William Forbus, the Joker's Voice, David Nelson, Gavin Blackburn, Checking It Out, Wonky Man, Marks 47, Cocho Dragon, let's see here, Doomed Ha, JT Gunn, John Carter, and No Money G. Thank you guys so much for your generosity. We really do appreciate that. You guys are awesome. You're one of the reasons we keep doing what we're doing here. And speaking of which, join us next Saturday, same salty time, same salty channel, for more salty nonsense. We've got a potential banger of a guest who's supposed to show up. We'll see if he actually does or not. But it should be a.
You didn't
good
refer to
discussion.
us as banger guests, or OMB, and we're just like normal guests. Is that what you're saying?
OMB is not a guest. He's a regular.
He's a regular.
I'm just a regular co-host.
Ever since Pineapple Pizza, he just
now I
won't
feel
leave.
dumb.
Yeah, he's our shelf man. He takes care of all the shelves.
It's fragile.
He's like, I got
Anyway,
nothing else
guys.
going on Saturday morning.
Anyway, guys, we hope to see you next Saturday. And until then, stay salty, my friends.